Welcome, everyone, to Tint Wisdom number 44. I'm Eric. This is Tint Wisdom number 44. And today we're going to be joined by Carlos, the Texas Squeegee.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. Sanctioned by the Tint Wiz app. Running a tint shop, there's an app for that. And now, the moment Tint Wiz fans around the world have been waiting for. From the jam-packed virtual arenas of the Tint Wisdom talk show, it's time! Full-length conversation with the industry's notorious tinter. Introducing first, talking out of the left corner. This man is a world-class entrepreneur holding a professional record of 43 Tint Wisdoms and 10 years in the industry, streaming out of Los Angeles, California. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the future, the host, Eric, the Wisdom Tree, Devash. And his guest, talking out of the right corner, a mixed film slinger holding a professional record of 16 years in the industry, the mastermind behind the Texas Tint Masters, the Tint Podcast, Tinter Entrepreneurs, and Tinter Tour brands, tinting out of Houston, Texas. He is the reigning, defending, undisputed, self-proclaimed tinter champion of the world, the Crusher, Carlos Squeegee.
What's up, Carlos? Well, I'll be damned if you didn't just raise the expectations for every single beginning of a Tint Wisdom.
Taking you back into the office to get this live stream started, episode 44, with the host, the future. Hey, what did you think about that? The future, Eric Devash.
Oh, I loved every second of it. Anything that makes me smile and laugh that much, I want it. I don't know. We're going to have to somehow use an intro. Hopefully I can use clips of that intro in every Tint Wisdom from here on out, because I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, man, it's a blast doing stuff like that. And yeah, I'm honored to be here. I've been a fan of the Tint Wisdoms, and dream come true being with the future, the host, Eric Wisdom Tree.
So what you just did, that's one of the things that just stood out to me. It caught my attention with you. I saw one of your videos and it was like, oh, this is different. And it was entertaining and it made me follow right away. And it just wasn't another video. You know what I mean? And where does that come from? Is that something you've always been doing, or what is the deal behind that?
That's I've often wondered that question myself, because how much of it is observational versus what you're born with. A lot of the theatrics, I don't know if it comes from my early childhood, because I was a huge wrestling fan. I was when I was a kid, I wanted to be a wrestler, and I don't know what it was about it. I think the theatrics, the over the top, larger than life, the fact that you get to play this character and be someone different. So that I think it started from there. And I was a musician in school. I loved performing. Going on stage was one of my favorite things. And even then I don't know, man. I love being on stage.
Yeah. I'm curious. Are you a Jersey Shore fan at all? Were you? Not currently, but
I've watched the show in the past.
Okay, so you know the situation, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, that this whole thing, that whole persona, the situation, the whole thing is an act for that show.
Really?
That's not, he wasn't hey, I'm the situation and I'm going on the show. He was hey, I'm going on the show. I got an idea. Hey, will you guys call me the situation?
That was Mike Sorrentino, right?
Yeah, that whole thing's a persona. It's a whole thing's an act that he picked up literally for the thing. They were saying, like, I watched a thing on American Greed last week and about Mike Sorrentino or whatever. And, you know, like they were talking about how like he asked the producer the first day of the show, they were like, hey, can you call me The Situation? And people looked at him like, what the fuck are you at? What? Like, what did this guy just like, you know? So like, anyway, the point being, I guess, is like wherever you find that from, I love it. It's great. Like it could be everything. It could be that, you know, it's a whole, it's its own lane. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%. And the way that I see it, it's branding, because when you brand right, you make yourself memorable to other people. And whether it's a client-based customers or you're just networking, you know, it's a way for you to stand out, because, you know, people don't remember average. They don't remember normal. They remember, you know, even if it's quirky or if it's corny or whatever, but if it works, people will remember you for that. And so that was one of the things about like that I learned from wrestling, is that a lot of these guys, like, you know, we're talking about like The Rock, for example. He had all these catchphrases. I mean, he would go out in crowds and, you know, would do the whole, you smell what The Rock is cooking, you know, shine up real nice, turn it sideways and stick, you know, all that stuff. Ultimately, what it was branding that set him apart. And the guy just, you know, he had his own character. That's obviously not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the real person, but on screen as a wrestling character, that's who he was. And it got him over the top, made his career. And I mean, that guy's one of the most famous people in the world right now. So, you know, I saw influences like that to try to bring some of it in here and, you know, just have fun with it, to be honest. But branding is the main reason for doing something like that or doing these kinds of things.
Well, I love it. And I'm curious, how does that spill over? It obviously spills over into like your marketing videos or your videos, whether they're marketing or we'll call them videos. Does it spill over in any other ways that I don't see on Instagram or Facebook? Like if a customer comes in, like, do you ever introduce them like that? Or is there any way that like more than life, persona comes out in work?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, because I've gotten people that have come in the door and they're like, "Hey, are you the guy from the YouTube videos?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." In person, I'm a lot more calm and a lot more reserved. When I'm on camera, it's like I said, it's I don't want to use the word act, but it's like, you know, it's a stage thing that I'm doing. And so people will come in the door and say, "Hey, you're the guy from YouTube," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." You know, I introduce them, whatever. How can I help you or whatever? And I was like, "Man, you're a lot more you're different on the videos. In the videos, you're raising hell and causing all this ruckus, and I come meet you in person, and it's just like, yeah, I'm pretty chill in person, actually. Unless there is a switch. There is a switch when the cameras go on, and I'm gonna, you know, do something. I see it as a performance. And I'm like, all right, it's showtime. Go out, and then that character sort of. I'm still developing that character, by the way, but that's the character that you see a lot of times you'll see on camera. It's really, I don't know what it is, but I'm still working on furthering development of that character, and, you know, hopefully at some point in the future we'll see where it goes. But
do you think that character helps you with like nerves, or is it, you know, obviously it's a branding thing, but is it a way to kind of like turn off the Carlos maybe nervous switch and turn on the let's go get it?
Yeah, it really does. But it's kind of, what was interesting is sometimes I'll catch myself talking to people on the phone, and whenever in my head, whenever I'm talking more along the spirit of this character, my selling gets better. Like my phrasing, my word, like confidence level. I mean, everything just goes up versus, you know, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, because the Tint Wisdoms are things that I've been a fan of for some time. And, you know, I was like, I could go on there, but I know I'm going to be nervous and I know what's going to squash this. It's like, well, I was always fascinated by Bruce Buffer and those kinds of style intros, and like, I've always wanted to be a wrestler when I was a kid. But F it, if I can't have an announcer do it for me, I'll go do it myself. And that's what you just heard right now.
That's awesome, man. I mean, like I said, I enjoy it thoroughly, and I think, like, you know, regardless of, like you said, there's just so many benefits of it. And regardless, like, somebody's out there is going to be like, you know, what is this or whatnot? And it's like, you know, you're memorable. Like, this was a standout intro. I think we already got probably more comments at the beginning of a Tint Wisdom than ever. So I just want to say thank you for everybody for joining us. on this Tint Wisdom, joining us every week, joining us today. And if you didn't get a chance to share it yet, please share this video. I usually schedule these Tint Wisdom, so there's an actual scheduled post that goes out on Facebook. The last few ones I haven't scheduled. We just go live kind of out of the blue at the scheduled time. So if you haven't shared it yet, it kind of helps other people get in here. And then also please keep in mind that this is we're all in the living room together having coffee. And I mean, me, Carlos, and everybody watching. So if you have any questions for me, for Carlos, all you got to do is drop them in the comments. We'll get them asked. But please, the more participation, the better. It makes it a lot more fun. So, Carlos, let's start out, if we could, by doing a little rewind and take us back to how did you become the Texas Tint Squeegee and the Texas Tint Master, and how did you become the Tint anything? Where did this all start?
Well, so a long time ago, the wee little lad was in trouble with my dad, and my dad knew I didn't like going to the shop. I have an uncle who owns an auto sound shop here in Houston, and my dad was one of the managers. I don't know what I did. I got in trouble for something, and he knew I didn't like going there, so he took me to the shop, and I hung out in the back. Like he was up front with the salespeople. I hung out in the back with the installers, and I see this one guy that was putting something on his glass, and it looked really weird, and then he had this plastic rubber thing, and he was just making it look really nice, and I was like, what is that? And I just kept watching because I'm a quiet kid. And then he comes up to me and he's like, you want to learn? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, then come back tomorrow. I'm like, okay. And I just kept watching him for the rest of the day. The next day I went back, and I'm sitting there just watching, quiet, not really saying anything, but I'm just watching what he's doing. And I'm like, man, I was just fascinated by tint. It looked so satisfying. The squeegeeing part looked really cool, and I never told him anything, but I was just dying to just get a squeegee and do one swipe because it just looked so cool. So he kept telling me, keep coming back. And after about a week, they figured I wasn't going to go anywhere, so they're like, hey, let's get this guy some tools. I mean, I was 12 at the time, so they got me a little tool pouch, little heat gun and whatnot, and man, that's really where it started. And I had this obsession with learning how to tint. And man, I remember the days where I would stay in there after hours, and my dad was a manager, so he was always the last to leave. They would close down the shop. They turned the lights off for the most part, and I was back there cutting away, trying to figure out how to do tint, man. And that's really where it started. And, was there for a couple of years. When I turned 18 and graduated high school, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Tint necessarily wasn't like, that I didn't know at the time, this is really what I want to do. So I went to a flea market location, and there was this parking lot on the bottom. And I was just driving by. It's a 3-story parking lot. Right on the bottom floor, I see this little corner, and that's all it was, 2 parking spots. And I was looking at it, and I was like, you know what? I bet you I can set something up there. Like, it's just on the weekends. Man, I could put a little table here and just get like 3 tent boxes. So I went over, I spoke to the manager of the flea market, and I said, hey, I do tint. Can I set up outside and, do some tint outside? And he was like, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? He's like, no, well, we don't allow any tenants to be outside. And I was like, well, why not? And he wasn't really giving me a good answer. So I told him, I was like, look, let's do this. Just give me one weekend. Give me that one opportunity. I'll come up here, I'll set up. If it's a problem, if I cause traffic or anything like that, you just let me know, and I'll pack my stuff, and you'll never hear from me again. That's it. So he said, all right, cool. Went there one weekend, everything went fine, went back to him, and they're like, hey, so can I come back another weekend? He's like, yeah, that's fine. So then that's where it started, one after the other. I was going to school back and forth, still not deciding if I really wanted to do tint, but 2017, end of 2016, I dropped out of college because it wasn't for me. And I decided, okay, well, window tint is going to be my thing, and I'm going to go all out. And if I fail, then I'll try again, or I'll go do something else, So that was in 2017, and that's really where Texas Tint Masters really started. And then when I took it full time, so in short, that's where I'm at now.
Nice. And, I saw a video you did on YouTube. For anybody interested, I believe it was on YouTube, but basically you showed that first shop that the garage that you started in, yeah?
Yeah, that's on my Instagram. That's on my personal Instagram and Facebook as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I thought that was a great video. I didn't remember where I saw it, but brings it right into perspective of what that spot looked like. And, something else that kind of came to my mind, I guess, is, how, somebody generously taught you how to tint and like brought you in. They weren't like, get out of here, you don't know what you're doing or any of that. And like, I saw this meme and it was about rappers, and I felt like, not like car rappers, like rap, like 2 Chainz rappers. Another great persona, by the way, is 2 Chainz, which wasn't always known by 2 Chainz, and is really just a persona. But anyway, so the meme I saw basically said how rappers always say how like nobody wanted to F with them when they were like broke. And then now that they're like famous, they'll be rapping in songs and they're like, I don't F with broke people. You know what I mean? And it's like, wait a second, how do you do both? And it's kind of like you see that with tinters. Like I think too, like, you want to learn. So the tinters wants to learn and wants people's help. But then like once they've learned too much and maybe they've been in it too long, then it's like, who's this new guy a lot of times. And I feel like that, it doesn't feel like any sort of part of the culture that you've built within Texas Tint Master, and then also with like the Tinter Tour, which I want to talk about as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've always thought, I remember hearing the Tint Wiz with Ralph, and he talked about his first guy that really introduced him into tint, and it made me reflect on myself as well. Like, the guy that ended up teaching me, that the fact that he was generous enough to say, hey, do you want to learn this? And I don't know, maybe he was testing me in the beginning and I just kept coming back, but he was really cool about teaching me what he knew and everything like that. And I often wondered, if I had met with the wrong guy, would I still be doing what I do? And, it sucks for the many people that, unfortunately, their experience is not like, how mine had been, where you met the right person to teach you the ways. But, I try to be that difference as well for people trying to come on board and want to learn something. A lot of times they'll reach out to me on Instagram at Texas Tint Masters, and they will ask me suggestions. I mean, there's a guy in Germany who, me and him, we message back and forth every single time. He sends me a message, copy, paste on Google, translate to English. I make my response, translate it right back. But yeah, it's been a blast, honestly, like, learning, but like a flame on a candle, like you can light 1,000 candles from that one flame and it's never going to diminish. You just spread it out. So that's the way that I see it. And I try to help other people out, teaching them what they need to know, the mistakes that I made so that they don't make them themselves.
That's beautiful. So what are some of those mistakes, if you had to think top of your head, that you would, it's a question I like to ask, which is, what would you tell Carlos day one? Or what would you tell, what are those big mistakes that kind of stand out, like, as maybe game changers that you feel like you're happy to be aware of now that you had totally wrong at the beginning?
And we're talking about like tint itself, right? The skill of window tinting.
Yeah, tinting or anything related, the business of tinting, the industry.
So with tint, anybody who's watching and you're picking it up for the first time, this is the thing that I would have told myself, is that it's going to be tough. Mentally, it's going to push you. Because I remember the days, I don't know how it is with other people, but I remember the days where I could not figure something out, and it seemed like everything I tried, just like I wasn't getting it. So, sometimes you would have a little bit of a mental breakdown, or I would need to take like 2 minutes. Man, I just need to get away from it for a little bit, come back. But the one thing is don't give up, because it is going to be frustrating, and nobody goes into it and thinks, oh, I'm going to be a pro from day one. Like, that's not how it works. You got to persevere. You can't give up, and always, always, always keep an open mind. Still to this day, I'll get with other tinters, for example, like on the Tinter Tour, people that have been doing it for less time than I have, and I'm learning from them. And people that, that have done it for way longer than me, of course, I'll learn from them as well. But there's something to learn from everybody. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I've always said with tint, it's so personable. You'll never meet two people that tint identically the same, down to the tool, down to the steps. Like, everybody has their own little tweak or version of doing everything. So there's something to learn from everybody. So I can't think of really that many mistakes, other than if at one point I was using a torch. I got into using torches, and I learned the hard way. Don't use the torches on the doors on the outside when you're trying to heat out, like, trying to work out a spec or something like that. Because
of a molding, or?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but it was on my own car too. But yeah, which is, like I said, it's a dumb thing, but hey, sometimes you get too curious and you do something like that. But yeah, as far as tinting goes, I pretty much try out anything and everything. Is the other thing that I would say is every style and every technique, try it all out, because at the end of the day, like I said, everybody has their own way, so you might as well try it all out so that you find what works best for you, because what works best for you might not work for the next guy. That's
Sure.
that I preach.
So, your online presence, you have a strong online presence. I want to start with that, and then we'll get into the Tinter tour.
All right.
But your online presence, what is the driving? First of all, the reason, I guess, to give you some context of why I'm asking this question. Well, having an online presence takes effort, okay? And the more you're going to be active online, the more effort it takes. And effort, it takes time, it takes money, it takes thought, it takes preparation, and it's a whole thing. So like, you have a strong online presence. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about what drives that presence? Is it marketing? Is it teaching other tinters? Is it just a fun way to make your, like, a way to, is it just fun for you, a fun part of your day at work, or what is it?
Yeah, so it's actually a little bit of everything. I guess we'll start with originally, so when I started to do the videos, it all came down to sales. It all comes down to my phone call with the customer. So originally, when I started to, get into I started off with the dyed film because, I'm a new guy. Nobody knows about me. I can't go out and start commanding $300, $400 a car if I'm a nobody, and nobody knows why you should pay me $300 if I haven't built a reputation. So that's where the videos came in. I wanted to start pushing some ceramic because the margins were a lot greater there. So it was, hey, I could tell this guy about this tint that blocks a whole lot more heat, or I can show him. Mm-hmm. So at a video, boom, 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 here's a link. Check it out. Let me know what you think. More often than not, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that there was a tint that existed like that. And I said, yeah, I have it in stock. It costs you X amount or whatever. So that's where most of my ideas still to this day come from, is addressing issues that would help me to send a link to a customer when I'm addressing a certain sale. The other aspect of it is, I have a lot of fun doing this, and I'm still working on developing stuff, because I'm very influenced by characters, like in wrestling, like Conor McGregor's another guy, Muhammad Ali, like these guys. There's just something about them that, to me, like there's a charisma and a persona that attracts me to that. And so bringing that in and sort of kind of figuring that out, like I said in the beginning, my dream was to be a wrestler, and it was because of the theatrics of it. So this is just like this little version. And I create ways. I try to find. I have a bunch of ideas, man. I'm still gonna put out some more videos, but it's fun, and explaining something to somebody in a way that's just, hey, this is what it is. It's more like, hey, check this out. If you put this here, look at what it does. If you put that there, this is what it does. It's just fun for me. And I'm a fan of the past videos. Sometimes I'll just sit there and watch them, especially with the tinter tours that we're doing now. Mm-hmm. I watch stuff, and even though like I was there, I'm a fan of that work as well. So I have fun watching it. I have fun doing it, and it helps me make money in the business.
That makes sense. And so it helps you make money, so then you're obviously able to reinvest some of that money. Do you – I kind of know the answer to this question, but not in its entirety. Your brother Eric, I was going to say, how does the editing work, and who does the filming? And, I know your brother Eric helps you with that, or does it all, or I don't know. To what scale does he do it? What's all involved in this to make that happen?
Yeah, so for anybody who goes, is really on my YouTube videos, almost all of them are not done by me. There are some that are. The more basic ones, if you go in there and it's kind of basic editing, that was probably me. My brother Eric and then a previous guy that I had before. The previous guy started off. I started the channel with him, and then my brother Eric took over. But more of the highly edited stuff that comes from him. And what was that question you were saying?
Like, what goes into it? Does he work for you full time, or like how does that work?
He's an installer here with me at the shop currently, okay. And he also has a skill of knowing how to do videos, and it's a great coming together, because he's got a really skillful. He's got a great skill when it comes to doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I need it. If I could show a customer something that I'm telling them, I'm more likely to close it. So when we get together, a lot of times it's, I'll see a certain car coming in, and I already have the topic in mind, and I'll just tell him, hey, we need to do this video, and he does that. I contract him for the video, so they can get a little bit expensive, but I'm looking at a long picture. Right. Those videos are going to last forever, so right. It's only gonna grow, and the return is gonna have exponential returns as time goes on. So I see them as worth it. But yeah, we just get together and I have more or less what I want to have it say in my mind. He gets the camera, boom, we get rolling.
Just to throw out some numbers there, just from my own experience, if anybody's wondering what it costs to get somebody in, film a video and edit it, how much should that cost? It's something that if you find the right person, you probably could get it done for $200 or $300 for a video. It could be $500. It could be $600. It doesn't need to really be beyond that for a normal video, a couple minutes and so on. I feel like a good number, if you target, would be like $250 if you're paying somebody just to come in, film it, edit it, and it's nothing too extravagant. If you get into like advertising agencies and video production companies, they're going to want in the thousands. But what I'm trying to say is, I think if you manage to stay, and you're in a different category, Carlos, because you have I don't know how much you pay him. It doesn't matter, but it's a different relationship. You have somebody kind of in the shop doing dual purposes, which is ideal because you have somebody who's tinting and can do this. They're always there. But for anybody just wondering, hey, can I pay somebody to come in? You absolutely can. Shoot for $250 to $500 and $250 a video or $300 a video. If you do that on ceramic window film, think about how many customers that could upsell or bring in, and how much it take. How many jobs does it really take you to recoup $300? So,
Yeah, 100% for sure.
So, not trying to develop video competition, but sort of are, because I think the more people get on video, the better. It just pushes everything along.
Yeah. What's funny about that? Obviously, I think it's in our inherent nature to kind of be a little bit intimidated by competition. But the way that I've always seen it is, if it's gonna keep me on my toes, great, bring on the competition, because that's gonna push me to innovate and get more creative. And that's why, man, if anybody that needs to help, I'll help them out. But at the end of the day, if we're in direct competition, I'm always going to find a way to try to outdo, to try to change something. Might change it for the worst, might change it for the better, but I'm going to take that risk, because one thing it's not going to stay the same. It's going to, it's constant strive for improvement. Sometimes you take a step back, but it's all good.
Right. And exactly what you just said, where like, nobody's like inviting competition. I mean, you sort of do, or everybody sort of does, but like in a way you're like, it'd be easier if there was no competition. But that competition, like you said, it pushes you in the right direction. And the one trick to, I think, like the trap that you have to make sure of is, if you're one of those people, you feel like you're ahead and you have this great thing going and so on. When somebody comes as competition, you can't get too distracted and look backwards at your competition. You have to focus on how you got ahead in the first place and continue to innovate and keep doing the things that made you worthy of being copied and competed with. Because if you turn your focus to the person that's competing with you, before you know it, they're going to actually end up ahead of you. And now you're the one behind. And it just turns into like a frustration, like a sadness, like a whole thing. Whereas if you just go, hey, you're competing, watch this, like you were ahead to begin with, you'll stay ahead. That's how that works.
And so with that, that's actually brings up a pretty good topic that I always like to discuss is a lot of people that I feel, and this is a concept or a principle that I learned from Jeff Bezos himself. But he tells a story about Amazon that when they were on the brink of going bankrupt, because originally Barnes & Noble was going to put them out of business, everybody was, oh my God, look at what Barnes & Noble is doing, this, that, or the other. And Jeff Bezos was like, let's not worry about the competition because they're not paying our bills. We need to focus on our customers. Those guys are the ones that are keeping us moving forward. Right. And oftentimes I feel that a lot of people pay too much to the competition rather than focusing on increasing the value for your customers or the experience for your customers, because they're the ones who are paying your bills, not the competition. Yes. They're competing with you. But if you're looking at them as a source of motivation or a source of improvement for your own thing, they can inspire some things, but ultimately it has to come down to the customer and how they're treated, the work that you turn in. It's all about the customer. That's the one thing I learned from Jeff Bezos. And kind of funny, when I started getting into the Facebook groups, it's very easy to look around and all you see is just other people that do tint. Somebody come up with this and like, oh, I need to do something like that, or oh man, they did that or whatever. Man, focus on the customer. That's the thing that I keep now in mind all the time. Gotta focus on the customer, because they're the most painful.
Yep. And what can happen too, like you said, you're sitting there in a Facebook group or wherever you're at, and you're looking at, or Instagram or whatever it is, and what you're looking at is you're looking at other people's highlight reels, and you're not seeing any of the behind the scenes. You're just looking at very small snippets. And when you put it all together, if that's what you use as your North Star and to figure things out, you're basically, you'll never do it. It's like watching promos for movies, adding them all together and thinking you're going to make a great movie because you learned from all the promos. Like, that's just not how that works.
Yeah. And it helps a lot to also network and get with other people that, for example, if they're in a higher level in the industry or in like same business, but networking with other people to get a sense of how other operations work, because that was the one thing that was really mind opening for me in this month, actually, because I went out to Expel in San Antonio and got the PPF certification. While I was there, I met Christian from Tint Avenue. I got to go to Expel headquarters in San Antonio and see the actual store. And man, I must have asked a billion questions whenever I was there, because I was out of my own thing. Like I don't have much experience working with other businesses or other places. So I've had to rely on getting other perspectives and, seeing other operations and stuff like that was very mind opening. Then we went out to Tinter Tour in Arizona, met with Greg from Fade to Black out in Mesa, Arizona, and saw, their operation over there. Again, is mind opening. Asking a ton of questions, but I've been blessed to have, the right people that I can lean on and ask, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Fastest way to learn, for sure.
Yeah. And networking.
Tell me more about that Expel store.
So whenever I went out to San Antonio, after we got the certification, I was hanging out with Tint Avenue and with Christian, and he took me over to the Expel store, and I mean it was a giant facility, and I was there talking to the receptionist. And how do you usually I ask a question, how do you get customers? But obviously it's Expel, they get them through marketing and branding, and but I was asking her more of, what's the process? Do you bring somebody in? Do most of them drop it off? Do people ever wait for it here? What do they do when they're waiting for it here? I see you have several displays. Do they ever mess with this? And how often do they mess with it? What do they ask questions? Do you take them over to them first? Do you let them figure it out on their own? Everything, And so they had a super, super clean facility. And just like Tint Avenue in San Antonio, he keeps things
sick. He's killing it. It's such a beautiful shop. They kill it on social media. They have nice merch. Like their hoodie designs are badass. Like the whole thing.
I have it here somewhere. He gave me one, and I mean the quality of the hoodie was like I like wearing it. It says Tint Avenue, and he's my buddy. But man, that quality of hoodie is it's really, really good. So, but yeah, they keep a super spotlight shop, and one of the things that I have learned from Christian is the perspective from the customers, and that if you're a guy, for example, that you want to start commanding the $500 plus tint jobs, your place has to look like, hey, I'm coming into this place, everything is neatly organized, it smells good, it's clean. I'm not going to get a $99 tint job over here. It just doesn't look like, you get what I mean? Yeah. So when I saw his operation, everything is just super nice. And when you have everything clean that way, it allows you to start charging a little extra because of the perceived value that the customer is, think that they're getting. Mm-hmm. So that's what I learned from being over there. Same thing in Arizona, super clean facility. So the cleanliness is one thing that I saw that was really impressive. As soon as you walk in the door, everything is clean. Everything has its place. And you know that these guys are going to put out quality work because you can see it in the details of walking into the place and how everything is cleaned up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially with like something like PPF and tint, like people want a clean job. Like if you're getting PPF, it's because you're trying to protect your car. You're probably aware of like there's differences in quality of installation. So like if you're going into a sloppy place, you're going to expect a sloppy job. If you're going to a clean place, you expect a clean job. Yeah. I'm curious, did you mention, like one of the things you mentioned was like, what's the process when a customer comes in? I'm curious if anything stood out to you as far as like, Do you know if like most of the customers get sold over the phone, or if they're just like, hey, come in, and it's more of like a consultation type, or is it more of like these people are just scheduled to bring their car and sold over the phone type of deal?
For my shop, or for which one?
For Expel, I'm curious. I mean, I'm curious for your shop too, but
Well, I didn't really get to ask that question with them, but I think location has a lot to do with it as well, and obviously online presence, higher marketing, higher advertising. But a lot of the customers that I get on my end, a lot of them are usually over the phone or through messages. I get a few walk-ins here and there, but a lot of them come in through the phone, and then that's when I go into sending them links to certain places, texting them this, that, and the other. And they come in. Now, this is what's funny is I have a buddy here in Houston, and this guy, he's 21 years old, but man, he knows he's doing extremely well in business. He started doing tint about a year and a half ago, but man, he's growing like crazy. And my favorite thing about talking to this guy, he's very entrepreneurial. Every time we talk, he's always telling me, like, giving me advice and stuff like that. And we often talk about advertisements and what's an effective ad. And one of the things that he has preached on me was run an ad that has an irresistible offer with the purpose of getting people in your door, which in sales I think is called having a full sales funnel. And then you'll get people in the door, but that allows you to upsell or to upgrade. So
for sure.
There's some effective strategies that we have talked about, but all this stuff is still things that I'm learning. I'm reading books on them and stuff like that. And this is one of the things I actually wanted to ask you about, because you had a tint company at one point, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what was the story? It was a flat glass tint company?
Flat glass, about, I think, opened in 2014 and sold to the end of 2018. And one of the things, like what you're talking about is, I mean, you were talking about like just now, as far as like having a sale or having some sort of ad that brings people in the doors, and then having that sales funnel. So one of the things that we did, I feel like, is unique. I try to force it down everybody's throats, but I still, like, for some reason, people don't always believe that this is the right way. But like, one of the fundamentals for us was, if you called and asked about a price, we were going to come out and do a consultation. And if you insisted on just getting a price over the phone, we were going to explain all the reasons. We were going to start to inform you on tint. So if you're calling for privacy tint, we're going to start, okay, so can we come out for consultation? No, I just want a price over the phone. Okay, perfect. So let's talk more about your tint job. So what are you looking for? Is it, you're looking for privacy from the outside, but a natural view from the inside? Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you know what type of glass you have? No. Okay, cool. So let's move on. And you just keep kind of informing them and asking them questions. And then by the end of a couple minutes, you go, so there's a lot of options out there. And as you can see, there's more to it than just tint on your window. Is there any way we can come by? We're actually going to be in your area this week multiple times. We do a lot of jobs around your area. Can we stop by? It's not, and like most of the time, even the hardest people will say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, come on by. Because number, you've built a repertoire with them. Like a lot of times people say, no, I don't need to come by, because like they don't know that there's a reason for you to come by. Or some people in their head, they're like, I don't want to save you. I want to save you the time. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to burden you to come out here. Maybe it puts pressure on them to feel like I have to buy something if you come out here. So let me just do this over the phone. And there's all these things. And absolutely, getting your foot in the door, even if they just wanted one window frost, gives you the opportunity to, number one, sell them on that one window frost. Number two, sell them at a price that makes sense for you. So we're going out there, right? It's going to be $350 for that one window. This is a high quality film. This is a great service. This is a warranty. We come out here. You're going to get you're going to get a professional insured company. It's $350. Well, you don't have a chance to do that over the phone. Over the phone, you might have said, well, one window, we can do it for like $200. And they'll be like, let me call around $125. Sounds like my budget. So the other thing is, you get in a house for one window, okay? Think about this. You get a phone call from somebody who says, hey, Carlos, I want you to tint my whole house. How much is it going to be? Sounds like a great quote. But you get another guy who says, hey, Carlos, I want to tint one window. Can you come by and check it out? Okay, so one guy you're actually getting a foot in their door, and now you can look at their entire house. You have a way better option than the guy who's telling you over the phone, I want to tint my whole house, and you're just a voice on the phone and a number. It depends how you send your proposal. If you send it through Tint Wiz, now you have the best proposal you could have had. But if not, you're just telling them a number over the phone and maybe a text message. So what I'm saying is, 100,000% you have to go out to every job. Now, the next thing that comes from there is, well, how can I waste my time going out to every job? You can't. So you need to value your time. And if you're doing everything, then maybe going out to every job is not going to work. And maybe you do make more money in your shop doing automotive than driving out to a consultation. But that becomes your fork in the road to where you say, maybe I hire a consultant. Maybe I spend 2 days a week doing consultations. Maybe I spend 4 in the shop, build up some business, and then I hire a consultant. Maybe I hire somebody in the shop and then I run out. That's part of the expansion. But what I insist on is there is kind of a right way and a best system, and don't lie to yourself about the benefits of those best systems because you don't want to maybe take on what it takes. So what I'm saying is, like you said, I send them text messages, I make them videos, I do all that. You're going up and beyond. I could be another version of you and stop at, I told him the price. Nobody in my area goes for that price. There's a guy down the street that does it cheaper. It's just my area. You don't understand. It's my area. You don't understand. And yeah, that's fine. You can stop there if you want, but you can see that there's actual systems, processes, there's ways, it works. We have the internet. We can see it happening in every freaking city. Michael Powell's one of these people where I don't know where Michael Powell's great friend. He's usually in these videos. He lives in BFE. It's in between North Carolina and Virginia. It's like a city that's not really a city. And he can tell you, he's busy as heck. He's busy with cars. He's running around doing big flat glass installations. And in the last chat, he's like, I have to hire somebody. I didn't even realize it would happen so quick. He's in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's next to you. It doesn't matter who's around you. It matters what you're presenting and offering and how you're doing it. So anyway, did you expect all that after that small question you asked me?
I'm writing, for people that are watching, why does he keep looking down? I'm writing notes on this because this is, dude, you're hitting right here into this is the stuff I love to talk about. So now we're talking about sales process. Now, do you know of Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street? You never heard of the?
Okay. I've heard of Wolf of Wall Street. I didn't recognize the name Jordan Belfort with it.
He's got the straight line system, and it's a book that I'm currently reading because, hey, I need to figure out. This guy says he's the best salesman in the world. Well, let me go read his book and see what I can get from it, Uh-huh. And he talks about sales process. Now, earlier you mentioned about qualifying your buyer. If you don't have the time to go out to every single
sure.
quote, then there's a process for that, and
Sure.
that's called qualifying the buyer, right? A lot of times you get a person on the phone. Sometimes there are people, maybe their solution of what their problem is really, hey, shades might work better than actual tint, and the way you frame certain questions will tell you, okay, this is a person that there's some potential. Now, sometimes you never really know, and exactly like you said, sometimes they're just looking to get a door. And I've seen a lot of people that will turn it down because that's not a job that's big enough for me. But exactly like you said, I'm going to go in there, take a look at their house. What other windows do you have that you might benefit from having some tint?
Ask them to use a bathroom and see if they have a shady, a dusty ass blind hanging in their bathroom, and go, hey, would you ever think about frosting that window in your bathroom? Right.
Yeah, or even decorative films is another thing that not a lot of people know about. And with any industry, if the problem is not the product or the service, if the problem is consumer education, that's an opportunity right there for a marketer that goes in and says, all I got to do is put this in front of the right people, and boom, the educator is going to make the money on that. And, whenever it comes to cars, earlier, like you said, there have been times where, where I'll answer a phone, and, in business, you have your USPs, your unique selling propositions. What makes you unique in your company, in your shop, in your service, in your area? If you can't answer that question, then you need to sit down and think hard. What can I do to make me stand out, right? So once you have that answer, then you figure out how to incorporate that into your sales pitch when you're on the phone. So there's been times where I'll get a call, and this is literally, like how you mentioned earlier, how much do you charge for a car? Let's just say, $150. Oh, it's $150. Oh, okay, thanks. Boom. Whenever that's had happened to me, I'll get off the phone and I'm like, that was terrible. This person does not know that we're computer cut. This person does not know that we offer more than just that. They don't know that this is a lifetime warranty or 3-year or whatever you offer. I'm like, that was a horrible sales call on my end. I did nothing explaining that. So
right.
Been working. This is what I'm currently working on, is developing, sort of not a script, but a guide, because at the end of the call, I want them to know at least who we are, what we're about, why we're priced the way that we are. And unfortunately, and I'll mention it here because I can't say how many times I see on Facebook groups people that bash $99 tint shops, and everybody just gets on the bandwagon of bashing them, but nobody's really offering, in my opinion, anything of value. How do you compete against a $99 tint shop? And that's like, nobody's really answering that question, which is on Tinter Entrepreneur's Facebook page. Is one of the reasons why I wanted to create it, was because questions like these that don't necessarily get addressed from an entrepreneurial perspective need to be addressed. For example, like one of the ways, if somebody calls in, and let's say that I'm charging them $200 a car, they say, well, there's another shop down the street that's charging me $99. What is the difference? And then I'll usually lead in with some questions though. Well, is it a color stable tint? Is it, well, what does that mean? Perfect for me. Right. Does it turn purple? Is it going to fade out? Well, I don't really know. And then I tell them, one of my favorite quotes that I like to say, good tint isn't cheap, and cheap tint isn't good. I've been able to convert people just by telling them that thing alone. And another funny thing is, this is how none of the YouTube videos work. If you go on YouTube right now, and I don't know if you're watching this in 2021 or further, but at least how it's right now, you go on YouTube and you type $99 tint, first video, or the first one is for sure on my channel, and then there's another one that's probably somewhere around the top 5. Every time I get a call and then people are saying, well, this guy's doing it for $99, I tell them, well, guess what? We fix $99 tints. And if you don't believe me, go to YouTube, type $99 tint, and if my video is not the first one, I'll do it for free. More often than not, they see, oh, okay, $99 tint doesn't last. It turns, well, it bubbles up, and then boom. Now they start to see the value. Some people are not going to care. Some people, they still get the cheapest stuff. And then at that point, okay, then we're not, we're not what you're looking for, and that's totally fine.
And that's another trap where sometimes tinters fall into, is because some people absolutely are not going to want $99 tint job, or I'm sorry, not pay more than $99, that they start to adjust how they treat the next phone call and the next customers, and maybe their whole business practices based off of that. And it may just simply, you're not getting enough phone calls. Sometimes if you're only getting a few phone calls, you're kind of getting bottom feeders, or like, it's the way I call them. You're getting the people who are going out of their way to price shop, like super far out of their way to call everybody to price shop. And if you make your whole business perspective off of that, you kind of have to know your North Star and follow it. A topic that came up, I feel like you might have posted it, unless it was Jason, but I think it was you. And what's up, Jason? He just joined and said, what did he miss? Well, the intro. And he says he was privy to the intro already, but it's still worth going back and watching because it was fucking amazing. So, one of the things that you, I think, brought up was if you put pricing on your website. Was that you?
Yeah.
Perfect. So that was a topic Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There's a lag here. So, but that was a topic that I actually, and I wanted to reach out to you because, and let me write something down because I want to address this in a little bit, but I wanted to reach out to you because your answer was very interesting. Most people were saying, don't put your prices on the website because, it'll allow people to call you, and then, you can go through your spiel or your sale. But you were saying if you've got a strong enough online presence, then you would be more open to that, right?
Sure. So think about this. If this is maybe an extreme example, but if you were looking for like wrestling classes, okay, and you called one wrestling place, you got a price. You called another one, you got a price. Then you looked at a website and you saw the price. So maybe you don't even bother calling them. And then you see The Rock's website, Dwayne Johnson's website, and you see his pricing, and his pricing's 4 times more than any of the other pricing. You're going to be like, yep, found it. That's the guy. I'm going with him. Doesn't matter his prices are more. I'm going with him because you already know the value that he's going to be able to provide you. It's an extreme example, but the idea is, if you have such a consumer draw, if you're able to have such a strong online presence to where, people are discovering you as clearly the best, then they're going to come to you because they're coming to you. And then it doesn't really matter if your price is $150, $180, $220, $230. They're coming to you. Of course, if you were $2,000, they probably wouldn't, or maybe they change their mind. But $180 or $240, if I'm coming to Carlos because I watch his videos and I know Carlos, the quality he provides, he's educated me and so on, then when I see your price is $240, I'm going, boom, done, $240. And that helps you, like you said earlier, qualify your customers. You can avoid the phone calls. You're just going to get phone calls from people who found you online, hopefully. You could take it a step further and go, you have to book it online. Don't even freaking call me. Like, you know what I mean? You can do whatever you want because you built that draw. Now, the beginning of my response to that question when you asked it online was, you know, it's typically best to not put your price, make them call you, because most companies don't have that big of a brand draw yet online as a tint company to do that. However, you know, if you do, or as you dominate an area, then that can certainly be a path you take to, you know, streamline your process and your sales.
Yeah, and that was something that you know, when you said that, you said, because most people said no, and you started it off with no, but you made the exception, and that was very interesting because then it begs to ask the question, well, where is that line? When do you know that you have the proper online presence to maybe now say, okay, I'm going to start listing my prices on the site? And then, I mean, obviously, the way that you list them, the way that the website is set up has a lot to do with it, because you can't just have, for example, a website, you log in, and it just says entry-level tint, you know, $149, and that's it. Because then all they're looking at is a number. There's obviously a way to do this, but where do you draw the line from when someone can start off as, you know, someone that nobody knows, and hey, and now these are the signs. This is what I'm looking for when I know I got my online presence.
Okay, so here's the thing: when you say like starting off and nobody knows you, of course that was kind of the idea of like, hey, you have to build a demand, so you think people have to know you, but you don't really have to be known. So if I was going to start a tint shop today, I'm going to make sure that the website is better than any website out there. So I'm going to have the cleanest website. And then I'm going to want to specialize in something. So I'm going to specialize in either a brand of car or a certain type of brand of car, sports cars, exotic cars. Maybe I specialize in BMWs and Mercedes, but you've got to pick a specialty, Tesla, something. Maybe you specialize in a certain type of film. You're the ceramic guy. You specialize only in ceramic, but you have to kind of build a specialty. So now you're narrowing down your market. And if you have, if now you just fill in that, you have to be found, so you have to run an ad possibly, or you have to rank well or something, but somebody has to find out about you. I do believe there's going to be people, once they find you, that they're going to go, I have a BMW. I was looking for ceramic tint. This is my guy, and that's going to work for them. Now, if you have a shop and you have overhead and you're sitting there waiting for that to happen, then probably not the best move to put your prices online. Let's get the ball rolling with some phone calls. So what I'm saying is somebody like Patrick that is just starting his business, his mobile window tinting business, I think that's a perfect opportunity to put it out there and see what happens, because hey, if you don't work that day, no big deal. It's a side business. It's just getting started. Start it that way. I think you could do it from day one. But to answer your question, how you know, I say, what if first of all, you're going to know when you're busy. So you're going to be pretty busy. And now the phone calls are really coming in, and you're going to go, well, how do I get more of these customers and less of these phone calls? And at that point, you can definitely put your prices and put your highest prices on your website, and maybe put a book now or, you know, whatever it is on there. And you're going to have customers call you in saying, hey, I'm ready to go. I would like to get my car tinted with you. You're going to go, cool, it's $240. And they're going to go, yep, I saw it on your website. You're going to go, cool. Now you get a phone call. They say, hey, Carlos, how much is tint for my car? That's probably not somebody who's pre-sold. You're going to say, hey, you know, normally it's $240. You can see it on our website, but we're actually running a special. We can do it for you for $200. And that's your opportunity to convert. You're going to get some people at $240, some people at $200 or $190 or whatever it is. And then again, you start to see, well, I'm getting plenty of people booking online. Why don't I just tell everybody who calls $240? And you know what I mean? And then eventually you just kind of push it in that direction. It's one of those things where like it can be difficult to shift from what you're doing because you're already doing it and you might have overhead and you have processes and so on, but you have to find your North Star and make it happen. So if that's what you want to do, if you believe in online scheduling, which is something that is obviously, you know, pretty much here, and you believe in online pricing, because, okay, here's the deal. Right now, if I want to get quotes, I'm going to call 3 different shops. I'm going to ask them for pricing. And like you said, you're going to get a couple minutes with them on the phone. And I would just say this, if you don't have enough time to talk to that customer and really spend time with them on the phone, then maybe your best bet is taking all that knowledge, putting it into a video and saying, picking up the phone and going, hey, it's 240. I'm going to send you a video that explains everything, and send them that video. It's better than nothing. It's better to put that video on your website and say, watch this video. The pricing's at the end or something. I explain the pricing and make them watch a video than you being like, well, I'm tinting a car right now. You know, if you don't want it, it's fine. Go somewhere else and get back to tinting, because you can't do that. That's what happens. And that's how you create an opportunity for somebody like we did in the company I was involved in to say, oh, we have all the time in the world. We'll come out to you. No problem. Because I know that I can get somebody to go out there and do that. And my thought isn't, do I keep tinting this car? Do I keep tinting this window? Or do I deal with this guy who has a million questions? Because the other thing, there's intangibles in there. So there's the things that we're talking about now that you can clearly see benefits and how that works. But there's intangibles. So I'll give you an example. When we talked about going out to somebody's house for one window, certainly we can already imagine the opportunity to sell them on more windows. That's clear, right? But how about the intangible of this? That person who had one window was probably treated like shit with the other companies they called. So now you're not only going to come out to them, you're the only guy who even talked to them, who you were nice to them. Now when you're out there, you do the window for them and you're really courteous and you treat them like you're happy to do it. So then what happens is you just put yourself in a scenario where you are so far beyond, your service was so far beyond what they had no expectations coming into tint. They called one guy, he said, we have a $400 minimum. They called another guy, he said, you know, I'm busy right now, just shoot me an email, I'll call you back. Called another guy, he said, it'll be $200, goodbye. And then you went in there and go, I'll come out to your house, I'll take a look, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, what's going to happen? Number one, you're probably going to get a really good review. And that review is probably not just going to be 5 stars. It's going to be 5 stars. Carlos went up and beyond and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be one of those fucking novels that people write. And then maybe while your car was in their driveway, the neighbor saw it because it was hopefully wrapped, and they're going to call you. So you just got another job. Now, on your drive home, somebody in traffic while you were sitting there saw your car, and they called you too. So there's another job. Now, the person who just left that good review, they're probably so happy about it, they're going to tell some people, yeah, I just got this done, blah, blah, blah. So now you get referral business. And it's not going to happen every time. But if you do it 10 times, it's going to happen sometime in there. And those lead to more businesses. They lead to more reviews. They lead to more word of mouth. And those are just little examples of intangibles that people often want to give up too soon. They want to tell you all the reasons why it won't work, and they just don't know what they're missing. And it's crazy to me. The craziest thing to me is that I used to think that I was holding these secrets to me in my business. I was like, oh, we're killing it. We're crushing everybody. We were twice the size of the second largest LA flat glass company. They had been there for 35 years. We were twice the size of them, starting at 0, going to 4 years, twice the size of them. And I sat there going, our software's, you know, our gold mine, our practices are our gold mine, blah, blah, blah. And then I look back and I go, is anybody listening? Hello? Like, you can tell people things. You can explain it to them. They can see it working. But putting it into practice is a whole different ball game. Just putting it into practice. Just that's the whole thing that I wish everybody could really click, is like, you have to do it. You have to actually do it. You have to do it over and over. You have to continue to improve on it. If you stop, you stop. So anyway.
So what's interesting about what you just said is putting it into practice. So this is something that I've been working on myself recently because, you know, I'm just like you, and I tell my buddy Joe in Houston about you all the time. Like, you got to listen to this guy Eric from Tint Wiz. Like, I mean, you guys, I could tell, think very much alike. But now, putting it into practice. There's that saying that says knowledge is power, but there's some people say that's BS. Applied knowledge is power, because if you go out and you get the knowledge, but you don't take any action, you're no different than the guy next to you that doesn't know it at all. Because at the end of the day, you know, your successes or your productivity is measured by actions. If both of you had the exact same action did, one of them had the knowledge, at the end of the day, there was still 0 action taken. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've been working on recently was exactly that, applying the knowledge and using it in the field. Like, a lot of times when I read books, for example, the one that I'm reading right now, The Way of the Wolf, it's the straight line system from Jordan Belfort. And every time I read a piece of knowledge, a piece of wisdom, I think, okay, how does this apply to tint? How can I make it to apply to tint? Let me think of a scenario in the past that if I had this piece of knowledge, I could have used and it would have had a better outcome. So action on, taking action based on the knowledge that you get is like big time. One of the things that man, it's going to make such a great difference, because that's really where the results are going to come from. It's not just going to come from
the action.
Yeah. Putting it into your brain is one thing, but if it doesn't go anywhere after that,
right,
you're not going to get anywhere with it either.
And I see it with like Facebook groups too, is like when people ask, they'll be like, hey, does this work? Does something work? Should you do it this way? And then you'll get people who say, yes, that works. That's a great idea. Like, should you use Home Advisor? Should you use Yelp? Should you use Google Ads? Should you use Facebook? And you'll get people who say, yes, absolutely. Then you get people who say no. If you believe the people who are saying no, you're listening to people who don't have it figured out, as opposed to the people who do. And then once you know that it works, so I know Yelp works for Carlos or Home Advisor works for Carlos. If it's not working for me, you can't stop at it doesn't work. No, it does work. I clearly don't know how to use the tool yet. Let me figure this out and keep pursuing it, because when that's obviously an opportunity. And before I forget, have you ever heard of the Masterclass app? It's an app. I don't know if it's a website. It's called Masterclass.
I've seen ads for them on YouTube.
Okay, so I was harassed with ads about these things for about a year, and I finally gave in a couple weeks ago. And the thing is, to me, Masterclass is synonymous with bullshit. Because typically, like, hey, take my masterclass. It's like, why don't you do something with your life instead of selling a masterclass? You know what I mean? Like, why are you selling a masterclass if you're so successful? But this specific thing, it's an app and it's a website. I think it's masterclass.com, and it's the only thing that comes up in the App Store. It's $15 a month, and it gives you access to all these, like, so many, like, great, like, pillars in the business world, and they just give you these 5 to 10 minute lessons, 10 to 20 of them. And I want you to check it out, because I started listening to these a couple weeks ago, and it's like a whole nother way to get in, like, this sort of knowledge and like wisdom, but it's not like, I got to find a 3-hour keynote speech, or it's like 5-10 minute bites that make it very like actionable, like kind of like a school in a good way.
Yeah. It's so now how you obviously have a great mindset, to do the things that you've accomplished. How did you develop that? Was that something you were always born with, or are there things that you have done or that you do today to put the right things in here so that you think about things the right way when you encounter them in life?
So I'm driven by I've always been driven. I've not driven as in like I'm driven, but like I'm driven because of the awareness of death. So as a child, I was just, for some reason, I didn't have anybody die around me, but I was very aware that life is finite. It's going to end. And, knowing how finite that is, I feel every single day this pressure to make the most of it, to appreciate it as much as possible. And what I mean by that is then I want to accomplish everything I want to accomplish. So what I'm saying is, if I see a Bugatti drive down the street, I don't want to go one day, because one day is not going to come. Not a $2 million car. Not one day it's going to come. And if I say, well, I want to spend a lot of time with my family. One day, when? Hopefully you last one day. Hopefully your family, nobody gets hit by a car. Hopefully you retire early. Hopefully. We can't go hopefully when it's your one life that we know of. So like with that frame of mind, I realized somewhere in my early 20s that if you work at something, you improve. They'd say like the grass is green where you water it, and like, it'll grow where you're putting your energy. And like, I realized that like literally where you're putting your energy is where you're going to see development. And if you look at work as like enslavement you go to in between real life, then that's how it's going to feel. And it's not going to go much past that. You're always going to feel like, okay, I love my life. I love riding dirt bikes. I love doing this. And now I got to go to work. And like, I didn't want that for myself. I'd rather not work. So anyway, I guess kind of where we're going with this is, no, it's definitely a work in progress. It's a constant work in progress. I think I'm by no means like there but I think being aware of it and being aware that, hey, like it was kind of the topic of a couple days ago. It was tough for me to get out on last Tuesday's Wisdom, but the topic essentially is, we come up with these plans and ideas in our heads, and we come up with like a time frame from them, and then we try to accomplish them. And then the question is, hey, remember, you're not going to live forever. Can we do that quicker? Is it really take that much time? Does it take that much planning? Like something I was just talking about was an awning. And it was like, why is there no awning at this location? And it's like, how long does it take to get an awning? It takes like a day or like 2 days, right? But here's the mindset. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I do this all the time. I go, okay, I want an awning. I got to find time to call some companies. So now I'm going to find time. Well, what does find time mean? How long does it take to look? Like a minute. So like I have a minute. So like what is find time? But find time is my mind putting it off for like a while from now. And then you're like, well, I want to make sure I get a good deal on it. And then you're like, well, I want to spend some time really making sure I get the right one. And what I'm saying is that one little task that could be accomplished in a couple minutes and have the big benefit instead could be something you don't accomplish or takes months or years. And if you step back and you go, well, what was the benefit I got from dragging it out for a year versus what was maybe I didn't get the perfect shade of color I wanted. Maybe the material wasn't this one that I didn't know about. And maybe it was, but what was I feel like you have a lot more benefit in moving faster, learning, adjusting, keep going than planning to do something in the future that's never going to happen, because it is your at-bats that count, okay? So it's one of the reasons why I started doing so many Tint Wisdoms, because I was like, I like this, but I need to get better at it. How do I get better at it? I need to do more of them. So let's just do them 4 days a week. Then I'll get a month's worth of freaking practice in 1 week. And you have to be willing to practice and try and whatever. And that comes down to marketing too. You can't be afraid to spend money in marketing. Marketing's you learning. Okay, so if you're going to spend a little bit of money and then go, I don't know if it was worth it, let me stop that. Well, if you stop that, you're going to stop yourself down that path of learning. And, what's the big deal if you spend a little money and you lose it in marketing? You lose it to a lesson. What's the big deal? You now have knowledge that you acquired. I just feel like that experience to me, like if you ask me something about like Home Advisor or like Pinterest or Angie's List or anything, keep going. I probably freaking tried it. And I might have tried it thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. This could be a waste of my time and money, but I want to try it. You got to find out because you only get one life. So like, anyway, your question was how that happened. At some point I realized that learning is a real thing, and it's rewarding. It's a rewarding feeling. It's boring if you don't learn. It's boring if you don't change things. I think going out and trying something, to me, it's like gambling with an actual reward. So I don't gamble really. Like I'm not a gambler because I know deep down inside that if I got hooked to gambling, I'll lose it all plus some. Like I'm that person. I'm like, let's keep going. Let's keep trying. And if you're doing that in a casino, you're doing that in a losing arena. You're in an arena set up against you to lose. Well, if you do that in business, you're actually setting yourself up to win. So to me, it's kind of like how I get my gambling release by, hey, I see something that looks like a good place to put some money or something to try. Let's do it. Let's see what happens.
So you said you have the mindset because of realization of death that you have a limited amount of time to do what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that I realized, probably sometime around my mid-20s, and I'm 28 right now, but it's somewhere around I don't know if that's considered still mid or not, but somewhere around like my mid-20s, I started to realize that a lot of times I will look back at times and think to myself, man, I wish I could have done more of it because I wish I would have known it wasn't going to last forever. Now, there's
like in high school. Like
for anybody who watches The Office, the last season, the last episode, Andy Bernard goes on there and he gives a quote that I will never forget. He says, "If I'm not gonna, I guess I won't."
I watched The Office. Give it to me.
So I'll tell you. So you remember when he said when he was in Dunder Mifflin, he talked about the buddies he made in college. Now that he's at this new place, he talks about the buddies he made at Dunder Mifflin, and he says, "I wish I knew you were in the good old days before you've left them," and that struck a chord with me because I found myself doing the same thing, looking back and saying, God, I wish I would have done more with that. Like I could have given more. I could have done extra. I could have been friendlier. I had more in me to give at that time. I wish I would have known, because at that time when you're going through something, sometimes it's tough to remember it's not going to last forever. Things are temporary. Eventually there will be an end to it and you will be looking back.
The good and the bad. It all comes to an end.
Yeah, so and this is another part that the Jeff Bezos that he talked about that actually struck a chord with me as well, is that when he was taking on, what Amazon when he was taking on Amazon, he looked at it as, when you look at old people and they talk about their regrets, a lot of times it's not in the things that they did, it's in the things that they didn't do, that they didn't try.
Right.
So he looked at it and said, I want to live my life minimizing the possibility of regret. If I never try this thing, I'll regret it. Because, that's one thing that struck with me, and almost in everything that I do. Some of these things, for people that watch, if you're on YouTube or you're on Instagram and you watch me do something silly or something stupid, just know a lot of the stuff, I'm trying it out. Why? Because I don't want to take it with me and then think on, well, maybe if I had put it out, it would have grown into this thing. Like some of my top YouTube videos, I didn't put them on there thinking, hey, this one's gonna be the next big one. This one's gonna be the top thing. I put that stuff on there at that time, like, before my first video really took off. I was just doing videos, like I said, it was all revolving around a sales call. All of a sudden, one of them gets 1,000 views, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then it gets more and more and more. What I realized, I'm like, just plant your seeds, because you never know which one is going to sprout into this huge tree. But if you stop planting them, then it's not going to go anywhere. And so as far as like the minimizing regret, that was huge. Like you said, you have a limited amount of time. When I realized that things, periods in life are eras or periods, and that's it. There's an end to wherever you're going. When you have like a childhood friend, here's another quote or another saying. When you have childhood friends, at some point you guys got together for the last time and nobody knew it, right? Now imagine if you did, or at some point, things like this happen in life all the time. It's so unpredictable. So making the best of what you have right now is how that's influenced me a lot. Now, in the long term, we're pretty young, right? At some point, we're going to get we have...
I got 10 years on you, I think.
Yeah, you do. But I still, we're pretty young, though.
Okay. I'll take it.
At some point, we're not going to be able to maybe walk as easy. When I listen to, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I listen to a lot of the wrestlers' podcasts. These guys that were going, hard and crazy in the 90s and early 2000s, now having back issues. Now can't walk. I can't walk right. So when I listen to them, I think to myself, I get up every day and my back doesn't hurt. I can walk just fine. I can get up and go on a sprint. I can lift. I can move my arms. I can do all that stuff. Things that you take for granted because you don't know what it's like to have without them. So I know that one day when I get to the point of, hey, I can't walk anymore, I can't move as fast, I don't want to be that person, that Carlos, when my health isn't there, thinking, damn, when I could do everything physically, I left so much on the table. What could I have done if I could go back in time knowing that my health wasn't going to be where it's at? And instead of saying, so now, instead of getting to that point where something is gone, well, I might as well listen to other people, take from their wisdom and saying, well, damn, that really sucks for them. Thankfully, I don't have that problem. Let me just get that attitude right now and do the best that I can and go out and everything so that when I get to the age, I'm like, I'm done.
Because that sort of regret, looking back, I feel like it's the ultimate misery pit in your stomach that you can't alleviate. Like, you can't get back. Like, if you're 80 years old and you're looking back on your life, you can't get back those years. Like, you can't. Like, it's not happening. No. So, like, to not be conscious of it now and set yourself up for those regrets, and I'm not talking by any means about you need to make the most money, you need to have a big shop, you need to. I'm talking to the one-man tint shops that maybe just wish they could spend some more time with their kids. And like, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe their joints are hurting and they're just like, I don't know what to do because they're, like, I'm starting to feel these pains in my joints, but I have to keep tinting. And it's like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and as far as that, so I know that there are people and that, sometimes life happens. Sometimes, like, let's say you're a tinter, that's your skill. You're a one-man shop or whatever. When things happen, because things happen in life, sometimes you can't do that. Then a lot of times, like, it gets very discouraging. But that's where the mindset comes into play. So generally, there's two reactions to you. When a bad situation happens, you can look at it and say, damn, that really sucks. Oh, I'm going to cry about it. Poor me. I need help. Somebody do this for me. Or you can take it and say, okay, let me find the positive in this. There's positive in everything. Now, it's all, like, a lot of times it's not as easily found. Sometimes you got to go digging a little bit, and then you find that positivity. But a lot of times when something bad happens, you can take that and somehow turn it into a positive. So in the future, when you tell the story, you could see how, wow, that was a real setback, but it was a set up for a comeback. And because I couldn't do this thing, it forced me to go learn this other skill.
Yep.
And now I'm really good at this other thing, because all of a sudden the rug was pulled out for me and I had no choice. I had to figure something out.
Right. 100%. And, every single time, if something bad happens or whatever, and every single time that you feel like, I need help, I just, I can't do this, I just want to complain and whatever, like, poor me. Every time you do that, to me, you're digging a hole deeper. You're making it worse on yourself. You're like putting more dirt over you, because it feels worse than if you're like, this is going to be fine. We're going to figure this out. It's going to be better, and so on. Like if you have that mentality, you're opening yourself up to solutions. If you have that other mentality, you're like literally like closing your mind, and it just makes it worse. I just don't want to make it worse on myself. So like I try to have that same mentality, because, hey, something already shitty happened. It means something good can happen. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And I mean, that takes time and it takes effort, because the easy route is to just let the weight sit on your shoulders and just let you bury it. It buries you down. And a lot of times it's not comfortable by any means, but at some point you have to get back up. The more you put it off, the worse you do it. And like you said, time is limited. The more time you spend down, in sorrow, feeling bad for yourself, hey man, time is ticking. Time does not care. It doesn't care. Like, it's gonna keep ticking, whether you decide to do something about it, a year from now, 3 months from now, whatever. Like, man, you got to take action now. And, a lot of times for me, that was realizing as well. Like in the last year, I've seen a ton of changes in my life, but it all came from decisions that I had to make, because, too often, unfortunately, it sucks, but, when you look out, and a lot of times in mainstream, it's almost like having a victim mentality is like a cool thing now. And I was like, it's so, you make such a disservice for yourself.
Sure.
Because there's no productivity coming out of that.
There's definitely unjusts in the world. There's no question about that. But trying to find the unjust in everything and trying to find like the reason is definitely not like a winning solution, for yourself. And something, you brought up like age and health and so on. Like, to me, another thing that because again, death is knowing that it's coming makes me want to appreciate everybody and everything now. I feel like you have your own business. I'm a tinter. I have my own business. If you're a one-man tinter and your own business is just you do have your own business. I'm not taking away from that in any way. But understand that your own business is actually very similar to you being an employee without a boss and a lot more headache, okay? Because you have a lot more headache because it's your own business. You don't have a boss, cool. But, like, do you have a business? So, like, let's just say, like, do you own a business, or, like, you are the business? Because, like, if you don't show up to work that day, is your business still there? Does it operate? Because, and what I'm getting at is, I'm not trying to say like, here's a good or better or best or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, unfortunately, we are going to run into situations in our life. Maybe a significant other needs your attention because they've fallen ill. Maybe you fall. Maybe you just break your collarbone riding a scooter at a window tint convention. Who knows what happens? But the point is, if your entire life is teetering on your ability to make money, then it's better for you to kind of put some things in place that means, hey, if something happens to me tomorrow, I still have an income from my business. We're still going to be able to move forward. Not something happened to me, I have to go write a note on the door, and now I just don't know what to do anymore, and I'm done.
See, so now, like, exploring on that topic right there, that's where I feel like a lot of tinters struggle, where, yes, you don't have a supervisor, you don't have a boss, and not to take away from anybody that's a solo tinter, because I'm very much in the same position too. But a lot of the question that I've always wondered, and I still ponder, and I'm getting a better sense of it now, is how do you take that and turn it into, a scalable business, or, a company, for example?
So you have to put, look, the short answer is you have to put systems in place, because
Right.
and again, I just want to reiterate the not taking away from the one-man tint shop, because the one-man tint shop has its own scenario where it has no employees to be a headache. It has low overhead. It has no boss, nobody, no one to rely on, no one that can disappoint you. It's you and the customer and the glass. That has its advantages. I'm just simply saying, if you're in a tight financial scenario and that's how you're running your life and your family's depending on you and so on, those sorts of things don't get better as you get older. They mount. Your kids go to more expensive schools. Your wife needs this, and all of a sudden you have pains and you have problems, and maybe, God forbid, somebody falls ill. I'm just saying that's a liability. You have to know that that's a liability. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but look, the simple step to going from I'm a one-man tint shop to I'm going to become a company is understanding that you have to, understanding you're going to need systems in place, okay? You're going to need processes, because other people are going to need rules to follow. People typically come to work for you, not because they want to be you, not because they're as qualified as you and as intelligent as you and all these things you think about yourself. People come to you because they want a job. They want to be told what to do, and they want to be paid for it. So what's important is for you to be able to tell them what to do, and that can't be in the fashion of, you did it wrong, this is how you do it, okay, I'll do it myself. If that's how you run your business, you'll never have an employee, no problem. What the easy way of hiring, the cheat code to me, is you simply evaluate your business. This is going to be unique to everybody. And you say, what do I do with my day? What takes the most time? What takes the least time? And so on. Then you start attributing a value to it. Well, how much do I make from doing that? How much do I make? So I'll give you an example. One thing that probably a lot of one-man tint shops do is they clean their shop. They hose down the fucking floors. They clean the parking lot. They mow their grass. Maybe they paint their walls and all this. These are the beginning steps of you going, wait, I can tint a car and make $300 in an hour profit. Why am I washing my parking lot? Why am I mowing my grass? Mowing grass costs like $30. I can make more doing that. I don't even want to have a lawnmower near me at that point. Like, I don't want to be adjusting the gasoline, the carburetor on my gas. I don't want to do any of that, because I can make $300. And once you start looking at the way your time is valued, you can start scaling it, and you stop, in my opinion, sometimes there's wastes of time. You stop wasting it. And, that's the beginning. I don't suggest a one-man tint shop hires somebody, makes them tint the windows instead, stands back there and watches them like this. And that's not going to be how you grow your tint shop,
You have to, like, when you hire somebody else, it's to free up your time so that then you can use that on a different part of the business that will, grow it even further. And, another thing that I think needs to be said as well is you have to always be in a constant state of learning and, trying new things out, because, I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in other people that, when you start thinking you're doing well, and then it gets in your head, time goes by, and then you look back, okay, 3 months just went by.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I still have a business, but it's still the same thing. I didn't learn anything. There was no improvements made, and I'm like, well, I thought I was doing well. Now I feel bad, even though the months ago I was feeling good about it. Now I'm feeling bad about it because there's nothing to move. And also, I look at life as the same thing as there's levels in life, and each level is going to have its own little tests and its own little pieces of wisdom of, you got to crack that code to move on to the next one. And you see people, man, they're climbing up, and all of a sudden they stay stuck.
Yep.
And they never go further from that. And the one thing that I love, I love observing people and their actions and their behaviors, and then analyzing myself, because I learned from that. And so, for example, there's a saying that says, if you stop to throw stones at every dog that barks at you, you're not going to get very far.
Right.
The way I see it is, that's the lesson. You can translate that to anything. Let's say if you've got haters. I hate using the word haters because too many people use it loosely. But let's say you got people that don't approve of you. They talk bad about you. Well, if you spend time, being a keyboard warrior, responding to every single one of them, next thing you know, you add up the times per week, and like, dude, you spent like 8 hours
Yep.
this week, you know,
Yep.
address this that has no value. So
Yeah, I think it's something we can always remind ourselves of, and it's like you just said, you brought it up, you analyze it. It's something I constantly think about, and it's something that I don't think I don't imagine that you can ever be perfect at, because it's like raising a bar and continue to push, but like you have to be able to capture that same like inspiration and drive that you had the day you decided to open a shop, or the day you decided to, expand, or some, that feeling, and go, I can do that every day. Every day I can take that with me.
If anybody could learn from, I'll tell you a little bit about the experience recently in the last 2 weeks. Right before that, I was feeling like I was getting burnt out, just from doing everything, because I'm running social media. I'm the installer back here. I'm answering the phones, answering emails, messages, and everything like that. Man, it's easy to get burnt out. And, like for us in Houston, we're coming off of the slow season. So it's not like I can go out and hire a receptionist and just get my overhead higher whenever, the money's not really coming in at that time. So, like I said, I was feeling burnt out, and, it can get discouraging sometimes. But the last 2 weeks I had gone out of town. I met with other entrepreneurs. I met with other locations. I got out of here. Now that I'm coming back, like, man, I've got a fire lit back in me. And I'm coming back, and I'm like, this has got to change. That's got to change. I got to do this. I got to do that. So a lot of it, whenever it helps when you're feeling stuck on something, to get away from it, get a bird's eye view. So that when you come back into it now, because a lot of times when you're in the trenches, you're looking at everything at eye level, and sometimes there's something right in front of you. You can't see past it, but when you look at it from up top, all of a sudden you get the clear picture, and you're like, okay, I see. I need to do this. I need to do that. And man, reach out to people too. Like reaching out to people, they're so like we're living in the times of like the most resource that we have ever seen. I mean, because of the internet, you go on YouTube, you can learn. These Tint Wisdoms, for example, even though they're new, but years down the road, man, I'm telling you, this is going to help a ton of people, because all of this, each person that you interview, they all have their own unique experiences, things that they've learned. I mean, we're living in an information age where you have so much information at your fingertips, and
like you just said, the more the burnout thing is real. Okay, it's so real, and the more you reach that burnout period, the further you are from being able to take a step back and have that bird's eye view, and even have the energy to have that, like to think about those things. So like it is one of those, like it's like the Chinese finger trap, where like the harder you pull, like you're making it harder on yourself. Like you might think it's work, and that work may keep you away from a move that would have made you way high. You know what I mean? It's like you're running up the stairs and somebody else is looking around and like, there's an elevator right there. Let's take the elevator. And like, somebody else is just running up the stairs. I think that just happens. And at some point, you're so exhausted from running up the stairs, you'll just never see the elevator, because you're so exhausted.
It's a classic working harder, not smarter,
Right. And you got to do both, right? You got to work smart and hard, because if you're working smart and hard, like,
Yeah, you got to work hard in the smart places, because that's what's going to yield the greatest returns. And I'll give another example of something that I did, within last year in my business here that really helped me out. And I see this topic brought up all the time, and I would see it brought up, and it happened to me. So when it comes to setting up appointments with customers, there's the classic no-show. It happens, and then I remember people always say, "No, we'll start taking deposits. No, take deposits." But I was like a lot of the other guys, well, people are not going to trust me to take their credit card information over the phone. Like, what am I going to do? Like, the only way for me to take a deposit is if they're here in person. Most of my conversations are over the phone. So then, it happened one day, in like taking a negative, turning it into a positive, right? So it happened several times. I got no shows. Now I'm like, I'm over here reserving my time in the shop for these guys, and they're no showing me. What can I do? And then I started doing some research about certain appointment websites that you can use. This is not an endorsement, but this is just what I've used currently. Is appointlet.com. It was super easy to set up. Like, whenever that happened, I went home and I saw somebody complaining about it online in one of the Facebook groups, even though it just happened to me. So I'm like, wow, it to me, it was just kind of like, okay, I need to go do something about this. And I set it up. It was super easy. The way that I set it up, there's different packages, and then you can set deposits for each one.
Mm-hmm.
I have it integrated on my website. So if somebody wants to book an appointment, I either send them the link. The way that I word it to them is I saying, look, if you want your wait time to be minimized, book an appointment here. Deposits get credited towards you. It's been working out great for me.
Mm-hmm. And the way you word it, like, you know, like you just said, if you want to minimize your wait time, so you're giving them a value. Here's an option. We can minimize your wait time. I can do something better for you, not just like, hey, you have to give a deposit.
Yeah, I booked countless appointments. I can only think of maybe one or two that still no-showed me, but I mean, one or two out of, probably hundreds up until now that I've done. Man, I'll take any day versus, 50-50 whenever it was just doing handwritten or putting it into the schedule myself. There's these things out there that exist, and that's when it working. I felt like I was working smarter at that point, not necessarily harder. And but at the same time, like, yeah, you're right. You need to work hard in smart places so that you get the return. But that made a big difference for me. Anybody who's watching that wants to ask me more about it, feel free to reach out. Because it made such a big difference for me, I know that a lot of people out there need something like that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there for people.
And to that point, when people say like, should I take deposits? There's no right or wrong answer. There's different ways to cook a steak. You can, like you just said, in your scenario, like your time's valuable. You obviously have a lot of people inquiring. And if you set aside a time, you need to be productive and be able to have a tint a car. Now, if you have a 3-week wait and then you're sitting there with a no-show, you maybe should start taking deposits. That might be a great idea if it's just you because you're sitting there. Now, if you don't have a 3-week wait and you only have a few customers here and there, asking for deposits might not be the best thing to do because you might shun some people away. Now, I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm just saying, there's different ways to operate. Some shops might have 3 or 4 tinters and they might have 6 or 7 cars in the parking lot. If one doesn't show, no problem. We had a walk-in, we had nobody, we had whatever, but there's stuff to do. But if you're like just you sitting there, then for sure you want to take deposits. So I guess what I'm saying is you can't really look at what's the right or wrong way. You have to look at what's going to be the best scenario for you and what direction do you want to go in your business,
100%. And, because everybody is different. Everybody's business and situation is going to be different. So some things may work in one, it may not work in the other. Ultimately, here's the guiding factor for any entrepreneur or any business. You listen to your customers. Look at how they react when you say something. What's the feedback that they're giving you? For like some of the feedback that we've gotten here, there are some people that absolutely love the fact that you can do everything online, and that's worked out for me. But that's how I've positioned it. Now, if all of a sudden I set this thing in place, and I started getting people saying, "No, well, I don't like that. That you guys are asking for a deposit. I don't like this, that, whatever." I'm going to adapt because, hey, those are the guys that are paying my bills. At the end of the day, I have to increase. If I thought increasing, my value to them was this route, ultimately I tried it. It didn't work out. So now I got to change it and implement another thing. There's so many things that you can do. There's also, like, for example, even if you don't want to require a deposit, you can have a system in place where they can still set up online and they'll get notifications through email, through text. Through all that stuff. And so, like when I first started doing this thing, I didn't start off requiring deposits. I started off just, hey, you can book it online and it gets put in both of our schedules, on Google Calendar, for example. And then I was like, you know what? Let me see. Let me try this out. Let me require deposits and see where it goes. It's worked out for me.
Do you have the appointments set up on your Facebook and on your Google Places page?
On my Google listing, there's the direct link to that.
But do you have, like, on your Facebook, so Facebook will allow you on your business page to set up appointments. So, like, if I'm a customer and I'm on your Facebook page, I'm going to literally see, like, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and I can pick times and schedule from there. And what I'm saying is, like, I think it's underutilized because it's kind of on the newer side of things. But, like, even if you don't use, like, even if it doesn't integrate with your system, even if it's just a manual thing, a customer clicks on it, picks 9 o'clock, and then it requires you to approve it, you can call them back and say, hey, we don't have 9 o'clock, but we do have 11 o'clock. If you want to schedule it, click on our website or I'll send you the link and there's a deposit or whatever. But, like, there's some people, like you said, that are going to appreciate that sort of thing. So like having that option there, even if it's not this perfect option, even if it's not the only option, even if it requires you to manually put it into another system after, like just opening up that option, I think starts to open up other avenues for people to schedule.
Yeah. So now I wanted to ask you a question that I think would be of great value for other people too. How do you grow a business? Because in a book that I've read, there's 3 ways to grow your business. One of them is increase the amount of money your current customers spend at your store. The other one is increase the frequency. And the other one is just increase more customers. And obviously there's different ways, but I wanted to ask you how, in your opinion, how do you grow a tint business or how do you grow a business and how can we relate that back into a tint shop or a tint company?
So spending more, like getting your existing customers to spend more money is like, I feel like that's like one of the first ones you want to exhaust. As long as you have customers, because you have to have like a steady stream of customers, I would look straight into that as first thing. First, before adding customers, adding employees, adding headaches, adding everything is, well, what are my customers doing? So look at what are your customers doing? They're coming in. What's your average ticket sale? Is your average ticket sale your entry level 180, or how many of you are you upselling to 600? What's your average price? Is there a way to maybe upsell them on a windshield? Are you taking advantage of that? Now you might say, yeah, I offer windshields. Okay, but how do you offer windshields? Is there a demo? How do you present it to them? Do you have any sort of display? Can they see that it's a clear film on a clear windshield? Because if you tell me, hey, do you want to tint your windshield? We have a clear film. I'm going to be like, no, that's fine. Just do whatever. You know what I mean? But if you tell me, hey, there's a clear film to block heat. Did you know actually most of the heat actually comes in from your windows, blah, blah, blah. Especially after you told me, hey, are you looking just for privacy or do you want to block heat? I'd be like, I like both. Okay. And if you're taking them through that process, you can't just end at, well, I offer them windshields and they just, they say no. So you want to get your average ticket price as high as you can. You want to see what kind of upsells. Can you schedule a home consultation after? Can you get any of them to do PPF after if you offer PPF or Ceramic Pro? Can you contact them a week later and say, hey, I wanted to check on how you enjoyed your car tint. Is it curing perfectly as you expected? And they say, I love it perfectly. Just so you know, we can also do the same thing for your home. Or, that might be the opportunity to sell them on PPF, not just once they're in the shop and gone. And the other thing is, look at, like you mentioned at the beginning of this, let's say you take 30 phone calls a day. Let's just throw a number out there. You take 30 calls a day between calls, online, 30 quotes, online inquiries, whatever, 30. And you're getting 5 of those customers in, okay? Now, we just talked about, well, what happens to those 5 people? Do they upsell? Because if they're upselling, and those 5 people are, you're getting them in, but then most of them are going to ceramic. So your average ticket, your highest is 600, your lowest is 180, and you average 400 because most, in the average. My next question would be, well, what would happen if we took that 180? What if we made it 150? What if we made it 140? Now you're going to go, well, no, I don't want to do tint that cheap. No, we're not doing tint that cheap. We just said the average ticket price was $400, right? Once they come into your shop, sounds like you're able to upsell them, right? So what if we could get all 30 of them into your shop? What would that do? And that's better than I'm going to spend $1,000 on Google AdWords this month and see what happens. Yeah, I'm going to see what happens. You're going to spend $1,000 on Google AdWords. That's what's going to happen. That's going to be the end of that. So you got to look at it from those 2 pulling areas of well, how do I get more people in? Well, how do I make more money off the people that are coming in? And make sure you're hitting those left and right, because that's going to be the foundation. If your foundation to growing your business is spending more money in ads and hiring more people, then you're only mastering the art of spending money. You're not mastering the art of your business,
Yeah, so I remember I had read somewhere, and I can't remember the details of it, but Amazon was selling something online at break-even price.
Of course. Stores do that all the time to get you in the door.
Yes,
exactly. Do that all the time.
When I was talking with my buddy Joe, he was the one that told me that story, and it was like, hey, they don't make any money on this thing, but they know for every person that comes in, they also buy this, that, and the other. They're making money on the back end. Sure, are you gonna get customers that just come and buy this thing? Yeah, but your customer behavior when they come in, they tend to buy 3 other things. That's where you're gonna make your money on. So. Yeah, I like that. I like that you said it. Just clicked in my brain. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this before.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Now, in terms of effective ads, what in your mind, when you think of an effective ad, what are some of the things that make up that ad? What are some of the things that you have to have this, that, and the other to have an effective ad?
So I think of ads in two ways. I think of like the push and the pull. So, there's the type of ad that I'm out there to inform Carlos about my service, and hopefully Carlos is going to be a good candidate for me as a business. And then there's the other type of ad, which is going to be, I'm going to look for Carloses that are looking for my service, and I need to position myself in front of them so that they see that I'm the best option for them. You know what I mean? So it's like, are you going to go out there and tell everybody why they should own a Ford truck? Or are you going to get in front of the people that are looking for trucks and let them see why a Ford truck is the best truck for them? And in window tint, in window film, I feel like the easier low-hanging fruit, unless the stage 1 through 3, before you become a master, you should be trying to get in front of people who are already looking for what you offer. That's a lot easier. Go ahead.
Like you're talking about, so this is like cold traffic versus warm traffic, right? Is that what
I'm saying? Like there's people right now that are looking for window tint, like this moment. It's easier in my opinion, to get in front of the people that are looking for window tint than to try to convince another group of people why they should get window tint.
Right.
So, let me give you an example of the shittiest ad ever. And this is an ad that we might all be, we all might have done at one point, and you could probably find some right now online. So no offense to anybody who has this ad out there, but I want to tell you it's the shittiest ad ever. If you make an ad and you try to convince people, spend more for your tint so you don't have to get it removed later on. Look at this shitty tint. Okay? If that ad is to a group of people who they don't want tint, they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You got in their newsletter, in their news stream, and cool. And you're sitting there, and I feel like it's kind of, look, I'm trying to be very direct because I want it to ring a bell because it happens to everybody, and I really believe in what I'm saying. But if you're sitting there on a high horse thinking that by preaching to a group of people that they need tint and that they need quality tint and that you're the best company and they need a shaved edge and all this, if you're on that high horse preaching to that group of people, you are wasting your freaking time, okay? Some of them might be like, hey, you do tint? Cool, how much? But that's not an ad. Now, that same shitty ad that I just told you is an amazing ad if that was used to retarget people who inquired already, looking for tint, but didn't choose your company, and you're going, they're probably shopping around. What if I can hit them with that ad within the first 3 days or 5 days, and I show them these ads for the next week after they called me? So when they called me, I got their email address because I wanted to send them and phone number because I wanted to send them a quote through email and through whatever. And then you take that information and you retarget them now on Facebook with that information. So now I just, I spent the day calling around for tint jobs at work, and then I just went about my day. But ever since that, I've been seeing Carlos, the Texas Tint Master, and clearly he's the guy because I keep seeing him all over my Facebook. It's the difference between the same ad, but the way you've positioned yourself. So, again, I think you start off by getting in front of people that are looking for tint. So people are looking for tint. How do you get in front of them? And, it's difficult if you want to say, well, I'm a brand new shop. How do I get in front of people looking for tint? Maybe you don't. Maybe you get in front of people looking for tint for Ford Mustangs. And maybe you get in front of tint that people that are looking for a Mercedes because you just did that Mercedes. So you can use that to make an effective ad to show the next guy looking for a Mercedes that you're the shop to come to. And, getting in front of them, is the way. Now, not to say once you have the ad spend, you have the flexibility and you kind of get a feel for the lay of the land, then you can start saying, well, what if I target a group of people who weren't looking for tint? I might be able to get in their head, sell some of them tint at a conversion that makes sense for me, because now that's a whole different ballgame, because now I'm dealing with a customer that's not going to shop around probably. They're just coming to me. So it's a whole it becomes a whole different playing field. But again, I feel like the ideal way is start with getting in front of the people that are looking.
Yeah, and see, here's another question that I wanted to ask you. So when you worked, in your company, you were a salesman as well, right? Or no?
I never really had, I started off, first of all, I wasn't the only, sole owner of the company. So I was lucky enough to be working with some people who extremely smart, extremely great salespeople, and extreme tint knowledge, because I didn't come into the tint game knowing tint. I didn't start, you know what I mean? I actually started working, I guess, as a marketer for a tint company, I guess would be the best way to look at it. That was actually my first way. It was, hey, my best friend does tint and his website doesn't come up on Macs for some reason. And in Safari, what the hell's wrong with my website? Fixing that. And it snowballed from there. But, I'd say a big part of my tint career was answering the phones. And it was because I fell into the trap that I'm trying to warn everybody against is if you don't put those pieces in place, then one day, if you're lucky, you're going to be freaking overwhelmed with business. And when you're underwater with business, if I was literally answering phone calls from 7 a.m. till about 8 p.m. at night, sometimes 10 p.m. I'll tell you why. Because I was answering calls that were coming in for the East Coast and for the West Coast, and I was on the East Coast. So I would go back coast, and it would throw the time zones off. So you could just see. But now here's the thing. On top of that, there's people who would call and they want a proposal. Like they're like, hey, I want a proposal. That's just what it is, and so on. So like sometimes you're sending proposals. You're also getting emails and you're getting calls. And what happened was I got so many freaking phone calls, emails, and proposals that it became hard to hire somebody to help with phone calls, emails, and proposals. But I did transition out of that. I ended up basically, my position through the middle and end of the company was I just oversaw everybody. I wasn't a salesman. If I picked up the phone, I became a salesman, but I had a staff to pick up the phone. I had a graphics department. We had consultants. We had installers, and and that was it. We had the whole. Every piece of the business had its own people, and they all used Tint Wiz, which was obviously our proprietary software at the time, and they were able to communicate with each other. So the person answering the phone put in the consultation. The consultant, it was assigned to the consultant. They would see it in their schedule. They would go out to the job. They would sell the job, do a proposal through Tint Wiz and so on. I could see where everybody was at, who was doing what. I could see when an inquiry came into Tint Wiz, how quickly it got answered, the phone call got called back. I could see the consultant, how many did they sell today, how many didn't they. I could see, who got scheduled as an installer, what do we have scheduled and how much we have scheduled. And honestly, that was still an enormous task, just managing all those aspects of the business. But I firmly believe that if you want to take the business to a level of that way you have to accept that everybody's going to have a job, and your job is to manage everybody else's job. You want to get to the point where your job isn't one inside the company.
Right. Yeah. Because
sorry, that was a small question, long answer.
Yeah, I know. Because the thing I was going to ask is another topic that gets brought up a lot on some of these Facebook groups is how a lot of these people. It's the knee-jerk reaction to dealing with a customer who wants to lowball you is no. You tell them to piss off, and then you go on Facebook and
never
screenshot or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now obviously that's the wrong way to do it. Which either most people are doing it, or at least the ones that are vocal, most of those guys are doing it.
Hey,
now,
it's tough, man. It's tough because it makes opportunity for. Look, some people are going to have no patience, so they don't know how to deal with people. That's what it is, right? Maybe they're just at a stage in their life where they haven't learned the importance of dealing with people that way. But that was clearly an opportunity for the new guy to come in and dominate, because when people were telling people to piss off, we were never telling people to piss off. Never in the world. We never posted some bullshit on our Facebook page complaining. If you're complaining about a no-show, I don't know what the fuck you're thinking, because you're going on your business page talking about no-shows. You go on your business page and talk about how busy you are, but you have an appointment. That's fine. But you want to go and talk about no-shows? You want to talk about your competitor? Oh, fuck that guy if he's talking bad about me, this and that. That's the craziest shit I've ever seen. But that's opportunity. So it's another strategic advantage you could take, and I was after the best results. So ego was aside. I don't care if you're shitty with me on the phone. I'm after the best results because I want the best results. That's it. I want to win. And winning to me, what became clear though, as a snowball effect, was if I'm never shitty with a customer, right? We never get a bad review pretty much, right? Never. And you know what happens when you're shitty with a customer? They get shittier. If you're never shitty with a customer, when you're nice with a customer, you know what happens? They get nicer.
It's a mud pit, man. When they get worse with you, it's just a mud pit. And here's one thing that I've learned is when tonality has so much to do with how that person is going to respond back. I've had customers. Now they're very rare. I usually don't get them, But I've had people that'll be upset about something. Maybe there's a misunderstanding or something. They come in and I can tell they're mad. You can see it. You can hear it in their voice. They have that kind of aggressiveness to it. I just come in there and I talk to them like this, and I say, well, hey, what's going on? You know, I'm here to help you out. Like, what's the problem? And now all of a sudden it's like it puts them in a position where if they get aggressive back, a lot of times it's almost awkward for them. And then I just sometimes you just got to remind them, hey, look, I'm here to help you out. I'm here to find a solution for you. Sometimes they're asking for unreasonable things, but that's still not an excuse for you to be like, well, piss off. I did this, I did that, because that's just fueling the fire, you know. And now when somebody calls in, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is how I approach them. Somebody calls in and they try to leverage another shop's price with yours, or they're trying to get a better deal. There's two ways that I typically handle this. And one of them is either sweeten the deal but keep the price the same. So, for example, sometimes it's not, if anybody's watching this, sometimes it's not really sweetening the deal. I mean, it's just emphasizing what you're already doing. For example, if a car comes in, and I'm using this as a basic example, and you're charging $150 a car. If the customer is like, well, I don't know, can I get it for something cheaper? And then like you can say, well, I can't do anything cheaper than that, whatever, the tint is color stable, this, that, or the other. But I tell you what, if you do it with me, I'll clean your windows. Now, obviously, we have to clean the windows as tinters before installing the tint, but that's just an example. I mean, you can use a lot more things. Like people use little like PPFs, for example, little door cups to run sales and say, hey, we'll bundle it up. We'll add this on there. That's one way. So you sweeten the deal by adding more things, or at least a perception of, hey, rather than just doing the tint, you're also getting this, that, or the other. Yep. Generally, my go-to, because I don't want to bring the price down. Now, depending on the situation, depending on the customer, hey, maybe I can get a video out of this one, or if we've been slow, then I might bring the price down a little bit. Yep. But not always. That's always my last resort. Like I said, every situation is different. Sometimes, hey, I can't do it. I'm already busy enough as it is. And I usually, like, one of the things that I like telling them is usually this, like, look, I'm not going to be the cheapest guy you're going to find. There are people that are doing it cheaper than me. But I will tell you this. I'm going to be the best guy that's going to get this done. I'm putting this color stable tint. It's going to last you for a long time. We're this, we're that. I'm going to clean it up. It's going to be the best. If that's what you're looking for, then I'm right here. Yep. But if not, then it's totally fine. I understand. And then a lot of puts them in a position of like, well, that is what I'm looking for. But, then there's another objection that which you can then handle. But a lot of times, sometimes that'll push people over, and I'm like, you know what? They're right. They're not the cheapest, but I'm getting what I'm paying for. So. Yep, I agree. And kind of like what you just said. Go ahead. Yeah, those are the two ways that one of them is sweeten the deal. Don't bring the price down, but just sweeten the deal. The last resort is, you can maybe bring the price down a little bit or something like that. Hey, give me a shout out or something like that. That's it. And I agree 100%. The only one little spot is when you said like, or if that's not what you're looking for, then like, I'm not for you. Leave that part off. I know you're saying it kind of puts them in a position to think, and it makes them say, well, that is what I want. But, I would even go as far as saying, hey, we're going to be the company who does this job for you. Okay. Cause I want to make sure that you're fully happy with this. You have a beautiful home. You have wood floors that we need to keep protected. You have wood moldings, or you have a brand new car. It's a beautiful Lexus. Like, you just got a new car. We're going to be the ones that do this job. Now, I can't do it at that price, okay? We use a quality film. We use, this is a quality installation. This is a different service, okay? So we're going to figure something out, but we're putting in their head like, hey, we're not, the question isn't whether we're going to do it. Let's just figure this out, kind of changing that tone. What bothers the heck out of me is when I see these text messages people post between a customer, and like there was one a couple days ago, and I'm not naming names, but I hope I don't offend anybody with this, but there was one where it was like the guy was like, I was waiting at the shop, the customer was like, like playing games with me, and I was late. They were late, and I was like, "Are you coming?" And then they were like, "Well, my stepdad said I'm on the way, but my stepdad or somebody said I should only pay $120." And they were like, "Okay, bye," or something like that. And it's like you can't end it at "Okay, bye." Like, I mean, if you really don't want the job, then you end it at "Okay, bye." But like, it doesn't end there. They're just saying like, "Hey, my so and so told me I shouldn't pay more than that."
That's an opportunity for you to explain it. It's an opportunity for you to tint their car. And what's going to happen is they're going to go tell that other person, hey, man, I got some shit way better than you even knew existed. And then that person's going to come to you and so on. Like, these are intangibles that you just can't look at it at face value. You have to go say, this is my North Star. This is how I'm going to treat customers. This is what we do here. And treat every single one that way. And you'll see that things that you didn't know happen will happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I've seen those on the Facebook groups too, man. And so many times, like, you know, I've oftentimes, and I haven't done it, but I've oftentimes thought about taking that post or the screenshot, just blurring out the names, posting it on the Tinter Entrepreneurs Facebook page with the intention of discussion, not in a hey, let's agree with the guy who posted it and say, oh, you know, what a shit customer, what a shit person. No. Let's take a look at this example. How can we learn from this? Because this is obviously not the right way to do it. You had a customer that was already convinced. Somebody told him something. All of a sudden now he's on the fence, and your reaction just pushed him away.
Right. You just basically confirmed, like, as if you were trying to steal from them. You know what I mean? Like, if I come in, you tell me it's 200, and I'm like, wait, the other people told me 120. You're like, all right, bye. I'll be like, wait, what was going on here? Like, were you?
Yeah.
This is a scam, or like?
And any good sales call, for example, like when a customer is shopping around, because people do it, they shop around. If you did your job successfully, after they talk to you, let's say they call 3 tint shops. One of them is 140, 135. 160, they called you, hey, this shop is 200, but they're also giving me this, they're also giving me that, whatever. All of a sudden 200 seems like a more attractive deal versus 150, because in their mind, based on how that sales call went, with this one shop, all they did was give out a price, that's it. With this other shop, they gave out a price, they gave out the warranties, they educated the customer, they gave other contingencies or little extra bonus goodies or whatever. All of a sudden, $200 seems a lot more attractive than 150, and it's just flat, or 175, or whatever. Yep.
And you know, the idea is, like, there's still going to be those customers who it doesn't work out with, but there's going to be customers that you never expected that you knock it out of the park with, that turn into repeat customers, that turn into a $600 tint job on a Honda Civic that you thought was just cheap, and the one that has, you know, brings both their parents' cars to you. And like, there's so many ways that it snowballs that, like, it's a matter of doing it the right way every single time. You can't guess based on the sound of their voice and go, I can tell he's cheap. No, you can't. You can't tell he's cheap.
No, it's happened, you know, even with me, when I'll get somebody and I'll think, because, you know, when I take a sales call, I frame questions because I'm qualifying the buyer. Is this person, you know, a lot of times, if they're price shoppers, why am I going to talk about my nano ceramic? I'll mention it, but I'm not going to spend the time unless I see the interest to really go in depth. I'm going to keep it to my entry level and then my entry level ceramic, and I'll tell them. And then, you know, based on how that goes, then I can see, okay, this person is more interested on this. But there are questions that you can ask, and that'll get you, okay, this is a price shopper. Oh no, this is a value shopper. Oh no, this person is looking for the best performance. This person is looking for. They're about to sell their car. They just want the tint to make it look good. They don't care if it's going to last. They don't care about the warranty. They're just looking for the flat out cheapest thing. Like, there are ways that you can find that out about customers if you ask the right questions. And it's just sitting down, figure out like what kind of customers you get. Write the questions that'll tell you, okay, for example, figure out your customers. If the people that buy my ceramic films, you know, they bought it because, you know, it's hot outside. They bought it because they're keeping it for a long time, whatever. Like, figure out those kinds of questions, because that's going to get you to identify what kind of buyer you have. And then you're more likely to close a sale that way, rather than, I only got this one and that's it. Take it or leave it, you know?
And you have, like you said, you keep saying ask questions. You have to ask questions, because if you don't, if they ask you a question and you answer it and without asking them a question, then you're not taking control of the conversation. The basic fundamental part of taking control of a conversation is you be the one asking questions. So they ask you a question, you ask them a question, you answer the question, but you ask them a question. So now you're in control of the conversation. It keeps going. If not, you answer their question, you're waiting, they're done, they hang up the phone on you. We're game over.
Yeah. So there's this book that I recommend anybody to read. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It teaches you.
Yes, Chris Voss. He was the ad that I got for Masterclass over and over and over and over again. And he has another, I'm sorry, a part in it's like chapter 2 or 3. It's called labeling. And it was what I was thinking when you were talking about, like, when a customer seems like kind of like aggressive, and you're like, it's calling them out on it, being like, it feels like you don't trust me. And like, and then it brings their trust up, and like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And there's so I read the book a while back, and I'm going to refresh it up, but there's certain ways that you say, like, it feels like, it seems like, because that's not like, it's different that if I, for example, we're having a discussion, I'm like, you're pissed off at me. Why are you pissed? Mm-hmm. That's different than me saying, it seems like something is troubling you, or like, is there something, or it seems like, I feel like, whatever. It's different. The tonality is different. The approach is different. It's not as aggressive. And he talked about, did you read that book, Never Split the Difference?
I don't read books, but if it's on audio, I'm going to listen to it. But I don't read books. But the Masterclass, but I want to freaking listen to I've listened to like all his YouTube stuff. He's definitely a genius, and I feel like everybody needs a little Chris Voss in their life.
Yeah, man, that made such a big difference in my approach. And it's one of those things, when I read that book, it's literally information, knowledge that you can get to use tomorrow.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right now. You can do this right now. And, he talks about tonality, talks about, what was it? We were talking about something, man, that for some reason that popped in my head. I can't remember.
Labeling, I don't know. It's definitely like,
It's a great book, man. It really is. It's a great book for negotiating. That's actually where I picked up if one side is demanding something and you can mask a certain deal to sweeten it. It's like, for example, if like when I mentioned earlier, if somebody wants a cheaper price, I don't want to give a cheaper price, but I tell you what, if I add this one thing, what am I really doing? I'm just increasing the value of the $150 you're going to spend with me already. Right. And on my end, it may not cost me anything. Maybe a little bit of some sweat equity. Okay, whatever. I'm still making the 150. I'd rather sell it at 150 and profit a 120 than bring it down to 120 and only profit 90. You get what I mean?
And you're bringing the opportunity of them coming in and then upselling or being a repeat customer or buying something else or whatever. So like 100%.
Yeah. So, man. Other than that, it's Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Anybody who's out there who struggles with negotiating, right? You just want, like for me, if you're like me, this is who I was before I read that book. I knew nothing about negotiating. I looked at the TV shows, and I thought, I give you a price, you give me another one, and then we start inching our way to the middle. It's not like that. There is a whole science behind it. Yeah.
A lot of people feel like a negotiation is like supposed to be like a hard, like aggressive thing, and like you don't like that's. It could be. It can be anything, but like I think this is way better. His route.
Let me give you guys one of the little secrets that I picked up from that book that was super valuable. A successful negotiation is not, let's say me and Eric are negotiating. A successful negotiation is not me playing a tug of war with him and then out muscling him to come to my side. It's me asking the right questions, planting the idea, getting him to think about what I really wanted the entire time. Is getting them to think of the solution that you already had in your mind. That's whenever, one of the things that I picked up from that book. And a lot of times he also said, negotiations doesn't have to be one side wins, one side loses. I mean,
no. If you go because you know what happens? He said it, but if it is that scenario where one side wins and one side loses, you'll get that deal done, but you'll never do business again. Because why would you? If somebody feels like they lost that negotiation, it was it was one-sided, they're never going to do business again with you.
If they feel like it's unfair, game over. It's so. But anyways, so did you want to mention anything about the Tinter tour? It's for anybody who's watching this for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, if we could talk about the Tinter tour. I want I spoke to Jason about it obviously last week. I want your perspective on, like, where do you see this going? Like, what's the vision? Like, where does this come from? Because, a question that I asked you and then it was asked in the comments and I was like, who's running your shop? And you're like, nobody. So to me, I bring that up because that means that this really, really matters to you. And it's a big deal.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess where do we start? Where did you want to start, I guess? Because
you tell me, how did it come about? The first one was with Billy in Florida.
Yeah.
Tintology.
it was, you know, kind of interesting. Like, I had met Billy. We met because of some topic that we sort of started talking, and you know, I had gone out, and this is an episode that you saw with Jason the first time, and I did the Tint podcast, the first one, and I started to think, I'm like, well, you know, I can go out and meet people, and that'd be cool. And for me, I could network, but I always wanted to have some sort of video documentation of doing that, because whether it was a podcast, whether it was a tinter tour, it was going to be one of the first, you know, that, well, these kinds of things really don't exist out in the industry right now. Like, not too many of them. So I wanted to do that. And then, you know, Billy and I were talking, and I said, hey, well, December is, you know, a slow season for us. Hey, I can go out and travel and meet you. And he was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So we had talked about it, but we didn't really set on a date. Then, you know, Jason got word that I was going to be in Florida, and Jason said, he's like, oh, he's going to be in Florida, that I'm going to be there too. And once I knew, I'm like, oh, Jason's going, all right, done. Let's just set up a date. And originally, you know, if you go on the YouTube videos right now on my channel at, you know, Texas Tint Masters on YouTube, when you look at the thumbnails, it says World Class Tint Collab. And originally, it wasn't gonna be a tinter tour. It was just gonna be a couple buddies hanging out. And I contracted my brother to put these videos together, and it was just gonna be like a one-time deal. But when we were out there, we had all that fun, you know, and I got to talking with Jason. You know, the thing, I always try to see what it could be. And I thought, you know, I've always been a fan of shows like American Chopper, shows like All-Star Ponds or something like that. Like those kinds of shows where you go and you see the people at their actual workplace and whatnot. And nothing like that really exists in the industry. Freaking tow trucks, you know, they have their show. You know, I Throw Truckers, Highway Through Hell. Why can't we? You know, like, what am I going to do? Sit here and wait for one of these gigantic corporations to finally see the picture and say, hey, we should do something like this because there's value? Like, no. It's, you know what? I just took a look at the math. I said, okay, this is doable. We just need someone that's going to be there, that's going to package it in a video and have it be productive. And I'll do my part playing the Texas squeegee. And, you know, it'll be guys hanging out and tinting these, you know, these cars and joking around and stuff like that. So when we were in Florida, you know, that's really where it started. And then, you know, since then, you know, Jason and I have been really talking. I mean, I've stayed up with him till like 2 a.m. talking ideas. Hey, what do you think about this? Now, most of the times when I hit him up, I'll have maybe like 10 stupid ideas because I'm very over the top. You got to keep in mind, I come from watching wrestling and all this stuff. I'll throw up some really wacky ideas. But I'm okay with it. I'll fish them till we get to the good ones, and then we'll be talking about it. And then you know, it started from there. And you know, he has you know his what he wants to get out of it. I have mine. I have my own strategies for using this content to benefit me here in Houston. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's when we started talking about it, it was like, hey, let's just make this into a thing. Like, it's gonna cost money, sure. But I don't want to look back in the future when I physically can't do this anymore, or whatever reason, look back and say, damn, when I could have done it, I didn't do it.
Yep.
So that's where it started. I mean, the Tinder tour was that thing, and that's what you know, pretty much what it's about. We go out, we travel as a group. Tinder tour is really anybody who wants to be a part of it. Like this recent time, we went out to Arizona. And, you know, Josh from Prestige Window Film drove 5 hours to meet us there, and we all hung out. And I'm excited for this next one because you know, you guys, for people who have watched it, the previous ones, you guys are going to see a different side to us. For people who have never watched it, you're going to see the people behind the tinters. And so that's the part that I'm really excited about to see, because this is going to be a kind of a new turn. You know, the original ones were more about tint and kind of us having fun in doing stuff in the shop, but then have fun outside the shop, and this, you know, the friendships that develop there. And but yeah, that's where it is right now.
Got it. So you've done 2 so far. The third one's when?
We're still working on that.
Okay, but approximately, do you think it'll be like you said, I don't know, 4 or 5 a year?
Oh, that's, you know, so that's the goal. Well, that's the plan, but we're playing this by ear, you know.
Okay.
Like you said, I've got a business I got to run here in Houston, and my dream here, at least to work with this Tinter Tour thing, is to scale this to the point where I can step away and the business still runs. And I can go out and do more of these things. I can put more money into this and have it be its own thing, because it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, like you and I have spoken, something happening in Florida, hopefully Tint Wiz sponsored, and we're going to make that happen hopefully in, I don't know, April or May, yeah?
Yeah. So see, that was the other one. And, Jason and I have been talking about when we want to do this. And, right now I'm in the process of moving location. So there's still much for me.
Yeah.
And, but man, we know when you talked to Jason last time, dude, we were excited. And I tell you, the one thing when you started talking about having a Tinter Tour bus and fog and everything coming down, dude, you were speaking my language. I was right there, I was having eargasms, because I'm like, oh my god, this is the guy that we needed.
Well,
yeah.
Listen,
I absolutely love.
Regardless what happens between now and summer, because I know you're going to get busy, and who knows what's going to happen. But the Tint Off in Orlando in September, 100%. There needs to be a bus. There needs to be smoke. We'll get that worked out together. There's going to be an off-site event that we're planning for Thursday night. I think it's, let me double check real quick, but I believe it's this for the second night, basically. So the Tint Off is the September 22nd through the 24th. We're planning an off-site event. I can't really announce any more details, but it's going to be an off-site event. It's not going to be at the Tint Off. We're going to be a part of the Tint Off every single day. There's going to be an off-site event on Wednesday the 23rd. There's going to be buses for transportation. So if you're staying at the convention, obviously, there's going to be free transportation to this location. It's going to be the place to be on that second night, which is going to be a Wednesday. There just has to be a bus with you guys, and we'll figure it all out.
Oh, dude. Hey, I already told Jason, I'm like, dude, I'm there, and you better be there too. and like I said, and once I get together with you, dude, and we work up some ideas, dude, I don't care how over the top you want to go with this. I am your guy. Put me in front of that. I know.
That's why I got so excited about the Tinter Tour in general, because what you said about there's no show for window tint. There is no show for window tint. It'd be awesome if there was. You can't tell me that the shows that exist are the only interesting ones, because there's some weird shit out there that people watch shows about. Tint is actually pretty cool in comparison. So,
right, and that's so. As far as where do I want to see this thing going, it's basically that I want to see this in the show, because ultimately, I'm the kid inside, dude, that I watched wrestling and I was a huge fan. I wanted to be in there. I watched American Chopper and I thought that was so cool. Hey, now I'm in this industry where there's so much opportunity here. It's unbelievable. There's so much opportunity in this industry, just right for the person to take advantage of it. Yeah. And this is why, this is one of my. I just want to be the things that I was entertained by growing up, and still to this day. Hey, I can do this sort of, but now in this industry, where do I want to see this thing go? Is I want to have a massive audience, and eventually have the Tinter Tour be looked at as a show, the first of its kind, that changed the game or influenced the industry somehow. I don't know exactly what that story is going to unravel, but the one thing I know for sure is that it is going to influence. It is going to change things. It's going to be massive, and anybody that wants to be a part of it, you're more than welcome to be a part of it. Ultimately, what we would love to have done is to have companies jump on board, because it's gonna at the end of the day, and this is what I was telling Jason, dude, I'm gonna keep going with this for as long as possible, regardless, because I'm having fun doing it, and if for nothing else, at the end of the day, I'm looking at it as an old guy. Oh, it never went anywhere, but guess what? I had a lot of fun doing that stuff. Look at the people that we've met, whatever. So it's going to be something big. So anybody that's watching, any company, if you don't know what this is, search up Tinter Tour. Go to my YouTube channel, Texas Tint Masters. Get in while they're getting this hot, because it's going to be big at some point. And as we build an audience, we're going to get a lot more exposure with this.
And you brought up money and companies, and I think any company is should jump on this. Like I said on the one with Jason and just earlier on this one, like Tint Wiz is absolutely on board. And I think every company that's in the tint industry should jump on board on this sort of thing. And the point being is, you know, we have to support each other in the tint world because, you know, like what can happen is sometimes, like we were talking about haters before, like somebody comes out with a new tool, let's say, or a new towel or a new this or new that. And like, you know, you always get the critics, and the critics are like, oh, what are they doing? Oh, you're trying to make money off tinters, and I thought you were a tinter and this. It's like, no, money makes the world go round, and money coming in will help create more. It's like this. If you want to have an effect, let's say towards like a charity, okay, you can take all your money and give it to that charity. As you make it, you can give it to it. Or you could take your money, you could go use it to make a lot more money, and then you could take that money and give it to the charity. What I'm saying is money makes money. So, you know, this idea of like the Tinter Tour, you know, if it has, like, we hear these great ideas and how incredible it could be and all these things that we can't even imagine, but like, yeah, it takes money. So like, when we support each other in the tint industry, we're enabling more progress in that tint industry and things that we can't even foresee happening. So like, it's always in our best industry to support like everybody. I'm talking about all manufacturers, all tool companies, everybody, because, you know, like that support, like even if it's just somebody with a YouTube channel, that support helps lead to more and more and more, and it does benefit everybody. So I hope they come on board.
When you had that conversation with Jason last week, like, see, the thing is that I've been watching you for some time, kind of from far away. I didn't really reach out to you because, like, in my mind, in my perspective, you were like celebrity status.
I gotta go. I gotta go. This is over.
But no, whenever I hear you talk, I hear your ideas. You know, like you're very futuristic, which is why in the intro, in the very beginning, you know, I sent you the rough draft, but I changed a word and I put the future because I see, like, when I hear you talk, I see like you're a visionary. You see like what this industry could be, what this industry needs. You see where it's going. And that's when we had that conversation with Jason last week and you wanted to jump on board, I was absolutely ecstatic. And I tell him, hey, this guy, Eric, he's the guy that we want to have on board 100% because you see that. You see the vision. You know that something like this is going to be beneficial to everyone. And I love the mindset that you have about helping everyone. And I don't know, man, you just see things different. Like, I'm absolutely excited to have you on board.
See it. Look, I see it as an opportunity. Like, I'm thankful to you. Like, sponsorship and so on, it's going to have a mutually beneficial agreement. But I am literally, like, thankful to you for creating the opportunity. You and Jason, you guys created this opportunity. It didn't exist before. So, like, when I look at people like Matt with his YouTube channel or Patrick, it's like, I'm honored to have a part of that and I'm thankful that they created this because you guys are creating it. So like when somebody's out there creating something for this industry, like crazy if you're not supporting them. Like you're crazy if you're not only not supporting them, but maybe talking shit or like, you know, any of that. It's crazy because there's nothing anybody's doing that's taking away from somebody else. There's room for everybody and it only creates more opportunity. Like this Tinter Tour that you're doing, let's just say even this new fun persona that you bring to the tint industry. This could be something that brings in thousands of new people, new tinters into the industry. Like, and now the next thing is like, oh, that means competition? No, it means game changing in the industry. It means like new level of like, what is that? How does that ripple into like everything? Technology of window films, technology around window films, information sharing. It just, you can't foresee it, but it's definitely a good thing. So I sincerely mean thank you for doing this, and I'm glad you're doing it, and don't ever stop. And you know that what's funny was that meant a lot when you were telling us that after we got off the air last time, was because it does get tough, man. Like I have to let the shop go. It costs money, but to me, it's absolutely worth it because of the potential where it could go. And like you said, it's the first of its kind in the industry. Here's the thing. I look at a lot of other industries and see things that are going on with them and other places. And then I look at the tint industry and it's
like, this is why I say no, there is action. Absolutely, there's action. But compared to a lot of other industries, where sometimes there are the way I see it, there's opportunity for someone to come in and be not necessarily the first in the world to do X, Y, or Z, but at least the first in this industry. And the opportunity is there. And, you know, one thing that you said in the last Tint Wisdom with Jason was, you guys were discussing something about plotters. You guys were having, like, some people call it stoner thinking. And we guys about plotters and stuff. But you said the value is really in the execution, because a lot of people have ideas. Not everyone can execute them. And you know, yeah, man, we're trying, and you know, I'm definitely trying as well. And I tried, you know, like I come off sometimes maybe sounding kind of gimmicky or whatever, but hey, at the end of the day, I'm doing it as a fan, watching it myself. So, you know, hopefully some people connect with it. And, you know, and you know, the other thing too is, if anybody is out there that is kind of, you know, I don't want to use the word gimmicky, but it's kind of, what's the word, man? What word am I looking for? A little bit of pop, a little bit of some pizzazz, a little bit of some showman behind it. Like, let me know. It would be a great addition. The Tinter Tour.
Man, well, I don't know that I'm your guy, but I do feel very inspired when I see like when I see you doing it. That intro, you made me want to do like a jump off the table into the bed and like with the elbow. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's definitely inspiring, and I think
so just that whole thing. It's funny because sometimes just for fun, I'll go back on my older YouTube videos because I still think, when the hell did that come into play? When did the whole, you know, the squeegee thing and doing all that? And I started looking back at some of the things, and it's kind of funny. We started seeing the seeds of it sort of somewhere. And then, like real quick, I started off just doing Carlos. The first things I called myself was, you know, Le Tint Whisperer was one of them. First, I've said some other things, man, but the Texas squeegee stuck around because of a few characters that actually I really like. But originally, I started my intros. And it was, let's say this was a squeegee, it's back there, but I started with no energy, Carlos the Texas Squeegee. That's it. And then I would watch him. And then one day, I came in and I was feeling like super energetic that day. And whenever the camera started rolling, it was just for fun. I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a throwaway one. And I was like, Carlos the Texas Squeegee, and I'm back. And I punched it. I remember thinking, I got to punch it. When I look back, I'm like, oh wow, I like that a lot better. That's a lot more energy behind that. So it's working through. And you know, my ultimate goal with that character is like, it sounds silly, but I really loved how The Rock would come out on any given night. He had his catchphrases, he had his go-to. He controlled the crowd better than any other person that you know we'd ever seen. And dude, honestly, like if I had it down to that level, like even if I got to halfway that point, man, that's, as long as people enjoy watching it, creating value for my viewers. If you guys enjoy watching it, like, that's why I do it, you know, because it's fun for me to do it. But if I'm having fun doing it, I learned this because I was a music performer. If you have fun performing, they'll have fun listening to you. So,
what kind of music? What did you perform?
So I studied classical music. I was a trumpet player, and then I was a tuba player. And you know what's funny is at some point, I want to kind of, you know, give a little mini lecture on this, but I always heard when I was trying to be a musician, that was my other career choice that I was trying to go for before I did tint. But people always say there's no money in music, and I think that's BS, because the knowledge that you get from being a musician, dude, I use that knowledge every single day in the shop when I'm training someone. One of when you're trying to master something, every little step, like anything great is built on layers. You want to have a great result, it has to be built on great layers each and every step of the way. Otherwise, the whole thing comes tumbling down. I learned that with music because when I played tuba, I was known for one of the fastest tuba players a lot of people had heard. Only reason why I was able to play really, really fast, because I practiced it really, really slow. And I built it every step. I would practice something really slow, pick up the speed. I master it, pick up the speed. And I just kept building on layers. At the end, you're like, holy crap, how did you do all that? Because I spent time on the details. And I use this in the shop all the time. How do you have a great shop? How do you build a great company? you build it on great layers. Well, how do you take in your customer? Well, we have a great system for taking customer. How do you handle your employees? Well, we take great care of them. If everything is built on greatness,
right,
it's going to be a great company. That's it.
I
One
agree.
of the key knowledges that I picked up from, there's a lot of other stuff, but there's money in the knowledge you pick up as a musician.
Yeah. Well, this was a great Tint Wisdom. Is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to get out there?
I mean, dude, when it comes to entrepreneurial talk, you can have me here all day. But
I plan to have you again, maybe like next week or week after, hopefully sometime soon, because I had a lot of fun on this one.
Yeah, there's just so much to cover. But I mean, yeah, it was great. It was great. And then, like I said, I was a little nervous coming in here, but I just needed that freaking intro and get things rolling. And the nervous.
But tell me this: was it easy and did it go fast? It's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I did go fast. I got the time up there, and every once in a while, like the first hour went by so quick. I'm like, wow, an hour has already. I thought we were going to be doing an hour, and then an hour went by in a flash. And then we had some great conversations, and dude, you were on fire for a bit there.
Oh,
the questions and whatnot. And but I think that hopefully people will see the value in the conversation that we had, and will learn from it. And man, I would love to, dude. I'm so excited to see what Tint Wiz is going to be. Shoot, when did you start this?
so like what? Tint Wiz or Tint Wisdom or what?
Sorry.
Tint Wisdom was started. I think the first one was maybe a week before. It was like the end of August. It was a week before the Tint convention.
So you haven't even had a year with it.
No.
So I'm excited, man. Where it's gonna I'm glad that you're out there, because I still look. So I have the Tint podcast. I don't put a lot of stuff in because I'm a part of so many things. I just don't have the energy. Once I get better at delegating, then you'll start seeing some of these seeds grow. But I was just absolutely thrilled that you started doing it, because I felt like when somebody comes along and starts connecting people this way, the industry is going to get better, because the current generations, but also the newer ones that are getting into the industry, and now you have full-length conversations with some of the top pros, some of the top influencers, and get the story, what they did, what they messed up, their perspectives and all. Like, the more perspective a person can have, man, that's a tool chest right there in your mind. So I think that Tint Wisdom is definitely, I mean, if it already is, but in the future, like, it's going to have exponential influence on future generations, future people, the way that you're connecting people. Man, I'm like I said, props to you for doing it. And I know that, you have your business going on, just like, a lot of us do as well. And you don't have to do this, but you do it. You take your time because you see the value in it. And like I said, the future.
I mean, I thoroughly enjoy it. I got to say, the first bunch of Tint Wisdoms without a guest, I was crazy nervous. And, I don't know that there was any enjoyment of it. So, like, anybody thinking like, oh, wow, I'm so nervous, I could never do that. No, you can. If you force yourself to do it, eventually you won't be nervous. But as far as, like, go ahead.
Yeah, you said that earlier, about repetition. When something is uncomfortable and you just expose yourself to it over and over, repetition will wear that off. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and these interviews, where it kind of led to these interviews, hold on, there's a little feedback. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. The interviews I thoroughly enjoy, because these are the kind of conversations, like, if me and you, we saw each other in person, let's say, and we just started talking, we would probably sit there for 3 hours having this conversation. And being able to do that remotely with whoever, whenever, is like a dream come true to me, to be able to, like, sit here and have these, like, business conversations with somebody else. So, like, I just thoroughly enjoy it. I'm glad you do. I hope everybody else does. And there's no stopping it, I'll tell you that, because I enjoy it. It's like literally my favorite part of the week. So,
hey, can I give you a suggestion? You probably already know.
Tell me.
But, okay, so one of my favorite podcasters is Joe Rogan. But I remember in one of his shows, they were talking about how comedians would post their full stand-up on YouTube and wouldn't get any views. And then I don't know who it was, but somebody started experimenting with splitting them up
In clips, yeah.
segments, and those started getting views, which fed views into the main one. And you know, I know you probably already know this. But
So what you're talking about is my inability, or like where I haven't gotten to the point yet where I haven't been able to find the time to do it, and I haven't been able to add somebody to do that yet. But yes, 1,000%. If you go on our YouTube channel, you'll see that there are like little gaps in time where they're clipped up, and then like it stops for a while, and like you're 100% right, and I really hope to be able to clip them up, because I think, you know, while I enjoy 2.5 hours straight, I can imagine other people would probably rather get 5, 10, 20 minutes at a time, or even 30 seconds at a time. You know, another thing we're working on right now is demo videos on Tint Wiz, just so that you can watch a video, you can see how something's done, and so on. So they're coming. It's just a matter of time. Jason said, Carlos, let him go to bed. So it's 7 o'clock where I'm at, 7:30. I'm not going to bed. I'm actually in Tucson for the Formula One Vista meeting. So tonight's the first night. They're literally outside my window right now. There's like a first night party, dinner, pool event, and that's the music. I don't know if it picked it up in the audio, but that's the music in the background. So you're not keeping me. I definitely, like, I don't know if I enjoy this. I'm more of an introvert, so I enjoy sitting here talking to you about tint than, you know, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this online. Let's But anyway, Carlos, thank you so much for doing this. I really mean it when I say I hope we can keep this conversation going in next week, the week after, whenever you have time. And I'm also hoping we can get some sort of outro. I know we didn't talk about it, but some sort of Texas Tint Squeegee, you know, outro. What do you got?
what was it? I'm having sound issues over here.
I'm having sound issues too. I was requesting some sort of outro from you if you have it in you.
Let me go pull my squeegee, because I left it back here.
Can you get the cape? I feel like the cape was freaking awesome.
So this is to show everybody who's watching right now. Tinter is actually a sponsor of Texas Tint Masters right here. And Jason got this made for me right here. It says sponsored. I remember I told him, I was like, hey, you know what would be cool? If you can do gold lettering on white. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. You know, it's not whatever. And I'm like, okay, it's cool. It's not a big deal. All of a sudden I get a package in the mail. Surprise, surprise. He was able to do it. So that was pretty cool.
That looks awesome.
Yeah,
hey, Jason, I bet you can't do purple chrome lettering on there.
Yeah, I hang it up here in the office. It's actually one of my sales pitches here that I've gotten people asking me, do you guys protect door panels and this, that, and the other? And I was like, absolutely. In fact, we're famous for that. We got sponsored by the official tinter brand, and I showed it to them. They're like, oh, deal. That's what I was looking for. Boom. Sale closed. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, no, I'm just kidding. All right, everybody. So this concludes episode 44 with the host, the future Eric, the Wisdom Tree, Dave Bosch, and Carlos, the Texas Squeegee. You guys follow me on Instagram at Texas Tint Masters. Search up my YouTube channel at Texas Tint Masters. This has been Carlos, the Texas Squeegee, signing off, and I'll see you on the next one.
That's a wrap, folks. We'll see you on Tuesday, same time, same place. Thanks again, Carlos.
See you, Eric.